We did it again. Look at it. We made it. Here we are. Having a pretty good day today, I gotta tell you. I don't know, good day. It's my birthday. It's my birthday. And basically, the big thing I did today was I found out I've been doing these recordings for a book. Just doing narration for a book, and I found out that all of the files that I recorded are no good because the site that I'm supposed to upload these files onto have like a check system, and they don't tell you that that's going to be the case straight away. You know, they're just like, start uploading your files, and you're like, oh, okay. And so like I record like 9 chapters. And then I start uploading them, and then they're like, I don't know about these files. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and then I start investigating, and then there's like a whole check system. And I'm like, oh my God. So now I've literally got a setup in my closet in my bedroom. I like went and found like an old laptop that I just wasn't using anymore. And I've got it set up in the the closet of my bedroom. And it can't connect to the internet, so I've got to like put the files on a USB stick and then get them here, and that's all fine. But like, what a procedure! What a procedure! Thanks, guys. Thank you for the happy birthday wishes. That's so nice. Sauron, the enemy of the free peoples of Middle Earth, was defeated. That's right. That's right. And let's hope that we will actually throw the ring back into Mordor, should we be given the chance. Should we be given the chance? Oh. It always pays to remember. It always pays to remember. Frodo did not throw the ring into Mount Doom. It was the ring's greatest and most vile creation, Gollum. In his desire to claim the ring for himself, he throws himself into the lava with the ring. I suspect a similar thing will happen with capitalism. That it won't be like the altruistic spirit of someone who ascends Mount Doom and then finally throws it in through choice. But it will be like a distorted and twisted figure who finally puts the nail in the coffin of the capitalist system. The ring cucked itself wanting to be brought back so bad. Good analogy. Well, it's exactly as Marx says about capitalism, right? Capitalism destroys itself. It's designed to do that. It can't not. The end game for capitalism is its self-destruction. The question is, are we going to go with it or not? That's the question. And near as I can tell, we're on the path to go with it. Seems as though people are like, rah, rah, let's go. We'll see. We'll see how that all shakes out. But I would much rather just say, no. Right? No, we could just not. Right? We could just not. Call in the Eagles, man. Let's go. Let's go. And it's, you want to believe, like, I would like to believe of myself that I would throw the ring into Mount Doom, right? Like, I would like to believe that of myself. Thanks, Eziel. Thank you for the birthday wishes. That's very nice. But if I was given $1 billion, right? If I was given like the means of production of a society, everyone wants to believe that they would be able to use it for good. That's the thing. Who's Isengard in the analogy? Are the hobbits the commies? No, the hobbits are like rural people. Like the whole idea, I think, for the analogy is that like it's the cities that become corrupted, right? Thanks very much, Pissed Off. I appreciate that, bud. That like Sauron, for example, right? Sauron lives in like a tower. Like the wizards are like the elite. They're the intelligentsia of the society, right? And Sauron becomes twisted by the power of the ring. And who's Isengard in this analogy? Oh my god. Isengard, I forget what Isengard is, actually. Here, let's do it. Let's do it. Isengard. Am I right? Yeah, the 3 major fortresses. Yeah, the Wizard's Vale, yeah. The wizards represent like the universities. They represent the universities. They become corrupted by the power of the ring, right? Of capitalism, and which is exactly what we're seeing. Like the university system is completely beholden to the capitalist structure. Like I know people who are like assistant professors and things like this, and their entire job, their whole job is cold calling people to get donations. That's their whole job. Happy 25th, John? You think I'm 25, bro? Okay. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll happily be 14 years younger than I actually am. Makes sense to me, I suppose. There's no way you actually believe I'm 25, bro. Like, do you actually think that? I'm 39. I know. I'm what can I say? I'm a beautiful person. I have a beautiful spirit. Yeah, the beautiful, beautiful spirit. Yeah, I've been celebrating that 25th birthday for 14 years. Got the Mariah Carey genes? Yeah, no kidding, eh? It's because Mariah Carey only exists during Christmas. That's all. She like goes into like stasis for most of the year, and then they awaken her on November 1st. Well, thank you, Rob. That's very kind of you to do. That's very kind of you. Happy birthday present to me. Isn't that nice? Oh, yeah. Well, while you guys are in the chat here, why don't we move on to the number pick? Today's number is... Yeah, of course she makes Bank on Christmas. And, like, that song's pretty good.
Here we go for today's number.
All right, here we go.
It's January 6th.
I'm going to go with a 4.
2022.
Feeling like a 4. We got a 1 from Barnabas.
10 balls.
10 balls.
Each ball has a number.
Oh, we got another 1.
Numbers 1 through 10.
Got a 5, got a 5. I know, Mark, you're going to go with 7.
Roll
yeah, you even spelled it out this
numbers.
time. Zed with a 3. That's nice. What is that?
Pick a number.
Zavork? Anyway. Don't remind me, DM.
Today's
Here we go.
number is 9.
We got a 9. Anybody guess a 9? Anybody guess a 9? Nobody guessed a 9. Threaded that needle. What was the percentage on that? What was the percentage? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it was like a 60% chance for us to get that. Threaded it right through. I remember once we had like a 90% chance. We picked, but it was the number that didn't get picked. Which I laughed my ass off. I thought that was hilarious. Like, get wrecked. We got totally wrecked. All right. What was it? It was a 9? Here we go. Is it a 9 or an 18? It's going to be 18. Here we go. As we do. Which song is that going to be? Oh, yeah, okay. This one's a little odd. I like this one, though. It's odd, but I like it. Straight with your shoulders back, tighten that heart, give it no slack. Find another way to fill that void. Fill that order, do as you're told. No one cares, you're getting old. The fake smiles, they just make you annoyed. In your illusions, pornography engine. princess. It won't save you from your sins. Wounded apes go on the attack. Dig too deep, can't take it back. Broken hearts will never let it go. Sold out for your even born. Try to eat, but it's all gone. Why sell yourself just to put on a show? Get lost in your illusions. Pornography and gin. Go save another princess. It won't save you from your sins. Stupid monkey on a burning rock. Reach the stars, grabbing his cock. Pump and dump your soul to get to Mars. Dreams don't mean a single thing. Don't worry what tomorrow brings. Surely it will only leave a scar. Get lost in your illusions. Pornography and gin. Go save another princess. It won't save you from your sin. It won't save you from your sin. It won't save you from your sin. That's like the opening of like Dexter or something, you know, like a Wild West show or something, right? Like where there's like every so often there'll be like a crack of a whip or something, you know, like get lost in your illusions, you know what I'm talking about. Like graphic images of guys drawing pistols, right? I like it. You want Psychopath Nation, bud? You got it. You got it. For you, bud? Absolutely. I'll hit you up with that. All right. I gotta get this one memorized. I gotta get this one memorized. All right, here we go. Burn yourself out for dollar bills. Kill your children for a few cheap thrills. You got a problem, well that's too bad. You're too tired to see you've been had. And workers starve while we drop bombs. No such thing as right or wrong. We'll call you lazy while you work to death. You gotta earn yourself a moment of rest. And I won't work for a psychopath nation. No, I won't work for a psychopath nation. Burn those corpses so you can speed. Buy that garbage you don't need. You'll play the victim while you lose your grip. Why won't they work in the apocalypse and retreat into your stupid lies? You act confused while your children die. We promise change but act the same. Gaslight, deflect and take no blame. And I won't work for a psychopath nation. the devil's lap. As we watch the world burn to ash, you'll whine like bitches on the way to the grave. Why won't those serfs just behave? Yeah, you fucking vampires, demons, and ghouls. We're done with being treated like fools. The curse is lifted, we're free from your spell. Keep on crying while you burn in hell, 'cause we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah. That song just kicks ass. That's all. That song just kicks ass. That's the song that they're going to use in like a film adaptation of The Great Resignation. Someone's going to make a movie called Resignation, right? That's what they're going to do. And that song is going to be like, as people are like marching towards like the or like leaving their job, right? As they're like throwing down, they'll like take their hat off and throw it on the counter and like walk out. And like they'll all get into the streets and like start like doing this. That's the song that they're going to use. Yeah, you're right, dude. It's a great song. It's a great song. Every time you suggest it, I'm like, let's go. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go. All the sites that I go to are going like gaga over like Joe Biden's speech. Everybody's like, oh, Joe Biden's speech. It was so statesmanly. It was so like nice. Like literally the most hypocritical bullshit ever, right? Like he's saying things like, what was the one line that really stuck out that everybody kept reaming on about? They're just like, we gotta care about one another is basically what it is, right? Like trying to point at the Trump crowd and being like, basically saying they're selfish, we the Democrats are not, right? Unity, togetherness. And I'm like, shut up, Democrats. Like you guys are like the most full of shit people on the fucking planet. Who is more full of shit than the Democratic Party? Unity, togetherness, love, compassion, community. Oh, you want us to actually vote in order to do any of that? No, bro. Like, we're not going to do any of that. Like, everybody hyper-focuses on, like, the weird culty aspects of the Trump thing. And it's there. For sure it is. But, like, it's there in the blue fucking mega shit, too. But, like, there are genuinely people who are living in states that have been completely fucking abandoned, right? Like, literally, there are no jobs. There is no infrastructure. Like, any kind of governing force that exists exists completely to capitulate power, to extract wealth as much as they can from the society. And they're just totally fucking them over. And the party that is most responsible for that, from their perspective, is the Democrats, and that's accurate. Like, Bill Clinton fucked these people over completely. Like, Bill Clinton is more responsible for a spike in poverty in America than any other president. And that's just objectively the truth. Like, if you want to stand up and convince me otherwise, I think you're dumb. Like, I think you're dumb. Like, Ronald Reagan was a better president when it came to, like, a child poverty reduction, right? Even fucking George W. Bush was better. For fuck's sake, Trump was probably better. Like, Bill Clinton actively sought out a dismantling of the welfare state. He argued for it. He created, like, the welfare queens, all that bullshit, right? Was that him? Or was that Reagan that did that shit? Anyway, Clinton's signature is on legislation that actively dismantled the welfare system. Like, millions and millions and millions. Yeah, Clinton reduced the welfare program. Like, if you're living in, like, Kentucky, Alabama, right? Like, any of those kinds of places, like, you know people who were completely decimated because of Clinton. And it's a direct connection. He outright argued for it. Like, it's not, and then the idea that they put, like, Hillary Clinton in front of everybody and we're like, yeah, Hillary, vote for another Clinton. Like, nah, brah. No, like let's go, Brandon, man. Like fuck this shit. And the Democrats keep acting like that didn't happen. Like that's how you know that the Democrats are just as culty and weird, right? They just don't acknowledge that Bill Clinton like spread suffering into the society in major ways, right? They're just doing with Clinton what they do to Biden, which is like what a statesmanly speech. Yeah, togetherness. Yeah, togetherness. Yeah. Like, get fucked. Heaven help us if Hillary decides to run again in 24. Dude. You think Biden's going to step down? You think Biden's going to step down? He might. He's old, right? It was just announced the inflation rate in Germany increased 5.3% in December 2021, the highest since 1993. Yeah, like, nobody has actually looked like... And at the same time, so inflation is increasing, everybody, but corporate profits are through the roof, right? Across the board, right? Corporate profits are through the roof. CEO pay is going through the roof. The billionaires are making more money than they've ever made, right? And inflation is going up. What the fuck? What do you think is happening here? Like, they need to pay for this somehow. And so the way they're choosing to pay for this is by taking it out of the populace. They're not going to turn to the billionaire class and be like, hey, maybe you should actually balance this out so that things don't go crazy. Nope. So and inflation, right? Like that, sure, maybe there's like a bit of inflation going on, but really the truth is they're just jacking prices, right? Like if corporate wealth was actually stagnating, like if the billionaire class was like, if their wealth was like stagnated and the line was going like steady across, and inflation was also going up, that would be a different story. But that's not what's happening. So the whole like inflation narrative is it's bullshit. Like, there is definitely inflation happening because like they printed money and sent it into the populace and didn't tax it. So yeah, that's going to create inflation. But corporations are also just jacking prices, right? And then saying, yeah, it's inflation. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's inflation. Oh, like these people are fucking psychos. Like, I don't know what to say. Thanks, Matthias. I appreciate that, bud. The birthday wishes. It's nice. It's nice. Yes. Today is my day. It's so when the Trump people invaded the White House on my birthday, I was just like, nice. Now no one will ever forget. Never forget January 6th. And isn't it funny? I'm a guy that's literally saying, like, we need to surround the halls of power. And it's like, well, on my birthday, there was a group of yahoos that just, like, went into the White House. It's like, yeah, but, they did it wrong. You don't actually go in, right? You surround the halls of power, redraw the Constitution, and tell these guys they're no longer relevant. Like, that's how you do it. Food was 6% more expensive year on year. Yeah, like, why not raise the price of food 6%? Like, who gives it? Like, they've made it very clear to us that they don't care about us. Like, the way that they're acting in regards to the pandemic, like, they're making it extremely clear that if we die, it doesn't matter to them, right? Oh, how old man? Oh, JC. Oh, it's like a knife in my heart right there. Just, I'm 39. Anyone mention Kazakhstan? We have not talked about Kazakhstan. I saw something. No, but I didn't save it because it was all very speculative. But, like, Kazakhstan is the same story as is happening across the board, right? Like, there's a wealthy oligarchy that took over and impoverished the country, right? Like, that's neoliberal capitalism. Like, it's nothing new. And there are, like, slight, of course, because every country is different, right? And it has their own kind of different stuff going on. But, like, there's but the theme is the same, right? It's becoming predictable and rote in many ways. Oh, you're older than I am, JC. Oh, well. Well, at least I've got that. At least I can hold it over you. Who's the old now? Huh? Huh? Still me. Still me. At least your birthday wasn't on February 29th, because technically you'd celebrate every 4 years. Yeah, I don't really care to celebrate my birthday, I gotta tell you. When I was younger, like, I made my birthday like a big fucking deal. But now I'm like, you gotta do you do Halloween, which is great. Everyone loves Halloween. But then it like goes into Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and then New Year's. And by the time my birthday shows up, everybody's like, happy birthday, John. And I'm just like, yeah, I feel you. And like, many of us just like go, like we go back to school. Like literally, it's like back to school, happy birthday. Like, mentally you turned 50 when you were 10. No shit, eh? I didn't know Canadians had birthdays. We do. Yeah, look at that, Jared. We do. Yeah. 30 was a tough year, honestly. Like 30 really kicked me in the pants. Because like when I turned 30, I really recognized that neoliberal capitalism is not going to follow through on any of its promises. Like it's just not. Like the story's over. Like I knew then. And that was very depressing. I think 40 is actually going to be easier because I don't have any illusions about it. Like neoliberal capitalism is a fraud. It's a total failure, right? JC is lying, by the way. She's only 17. I don't know. But if you believe in your heart, all right. I have no way to verify any of this. For all I know, you are all, in fact, just robots. Yeah, this is like an episode of Black Mirror where you each individually are just like an algorithm designed to trap me in the illusion that I'm increasing this kind of thing. But none of you are actually people. Yeah, that's fucking creepy to think about that shit. Yeah, 30 was the year it all hit for me too, regarding how the world works, yeah. Hard to have mental and physical health in this wealth gap hellhole. Yeah, it's like someone was in the stream yesterday and they said like, no, this is the best time ever. Like we've got all this, like things are going up, all this kind of stuff. It's like, but we don't have our time. Like we don't have our time, right? Our time is what's being siphoned away from us. That it could be like, grinning, that's funny. Oh, you figured it out. Nice knowing you. Like the illusion shatters, right? Like it's like I'm on a holodeck, right? Like some Romulans come in. Oh, you've seen through our illusion. What? How did you figure it out? So, this is the most interesting thing I found today for sure. This is an open letter to Premier Doug Ford from the nurses of Ontario. A health system on the verge of total collapse. Dear Premier Ford, as the fifth wave of this pandemic rages, the cracks in our health system are clear for all to see. Witness the implementation of Code Orange in hospitals and the cancellation of surgeries and procedures yet again. Nursing homes desperately short of nurse care workers. The severe shortage of RNs in our hospital emergency departments. ICUs and other critical areas. A home care sector with drastically declining acceptance rates, unable to keep up with demand. And a shortage of paramedics. And all of this is happening under your watch, even before the devastation of Omicron peaks. Throughout the entire course of this pandemic, you have continuously shown disrespect for nurses and the nursing profession, turning a pre-pandemic nursing shortage into a full-blown nursing crisis. 2 actions are required immediately to avert the full collapse of Ontario's health system. 1. Move Ontario back to step 1 of Ontario's roadmap to reopen. 2. Repeal Bill 124, top up compensation and improve working conditions for nurses so we retain those working and the thousands who have left hopefully return. Premier, Your reactive and last-minute management of this pandemic must end. It ought to be clear to you by now that your approach is failing Ontarians. You must also recognize that there is no separate trajectory for Ontario's economy while this virus ravages the people of this province and threatens to bring our health system to its knees. COVID-19 must be confronted and defeated with steely courage and determination. Ontarians desperately need the help of the nursing profession to succeed in fighting Omicron. As the Premier of this province, it is on you to understand this. Change the conduct of your government and bring hope back to our nursing profession. It is clear from your remarks at recent media conferences that you have turned a blind eye to the realities on the ground as nurses and RNs in particular continue in vain to fight COVID-19. This happens as the Omicron variant sweeps through Ontario communities at breakneck speed. In our November 29th letter to you, we outlined the serious RN understaffing crisis facing the province. This crisis existed long before the pandemic, and it is one that is now demonstrably worse. Its effects are being felt across the health system. Every day, nurses are making the difficult choice to leave their chosen profession after careful and considered thought. There are many reasons why nurses have been reaching this breaking point. Too many days with excessive and dangerous patient workloads. Too many shifts without a day off. Too much time spent away from their families and loved ones. And too many days under Bill 124, legislation your government passed in a misguided attempt at austerity. This has left nurses with an absurd salary increase this year that in reality constitutes a 4% reduction in their real income after inflation. The true cost of Bill 124 is now laid bare for all to see. The system doesn't have enough RNs to deal with the Omicron crisis. At a critical time in this latest wave of new infections and staggering numbers, nurses who remain in their roles are continuing to prop up our health system as best they can, but just barely. We do not want to think what will happen when Omicron reaches the elderly population in Ontario, which is only starting now. Nurses and the healthcare system are hanging on by a thread, and it is only going to get worse. Lives are at stake. For 23 months, we have been warning you that the pandemic is not over. We have been warning that the real system planning needs to happen. And at the center of that planning is ensuring there is a robust RN workforce to care for those who need it. As we have outlined time and again, you cannot have a well-functioning system if you have a crisis in nursing. The two are interdependent. An effective response to Ontario's nursing crisis begins by repealing Bill 124. The fall session of the legislature ended without acknowledging the plea of thousands of nurses to repeal this bill. As a result, over the holidays, we stepped up our campaign by asking our members to get in touch with their local MPPs. Nurses brought greeting cards to those who signed a pledge to support our call for the repeal of this legislation. They asked those who have not signed, why not? Leaders Andrea Horvath, Stephen Del Duca, and Michael Schreiner have all signed our pledge to support our call to repeal Bill 124. So have all of their MPPs. But Premier, you have not signed, and nor have any of your MPPs, despite several wanting to do so. Your marching orders to them are clear. Ignore nurses. The question is, only you can answer. In addition to repealing Bill 124, the work to rebuild Ontario's nursing profession must begin. We have laid out essential building blocks in that process. It starts with retention. making sure the RNs currently caring for patients remain in the profession. We need every single one of them. We have called for specific measures to support nursing careers in Ontario. Immediately repeal Bill 124 to signal respect for nurses as essential workers. Increase the supply of RNs by increasing school enrollment by 10% in each of the next 8 years. Expand bridging programs from PSW to RPN, from RPN to RN, from RN to NP. Expedite the processing for internationally educated RNs. There are thousands waiting. Support faculty retention and recruitment in nursing programs. Develop and fund a Return to Nursing Now program to attract RNs back to the workforce. Expand the Nursing Graduate Guarantee program and reinstate the Late Career Nurse Initiative. Establish a nursing task force to make additional recommendations. Premier, although we have had an RN shortage for decades, you and your government continue to compound the problem by disrespecting nurses and devaluing our expertise. Nurses see Bill 124 as ample evidence of that. The length of the pandemic and the ensuing stress and burnout it has caused demand your immediate attention. Inaction will inevitably bring Ontario's health system to a complete collapse, causing more suffering and more lives lost. The system needs more RNs and more NPs. We have been warning you of the need to take action. Critical time has been lost, and now speed is of the essence. We are deeply worried about our colleagues on the front lines, and we are deeply worried that Ontarians of all ages, including children, will not get the access they need to emergency departments, ICUs, and other critical areas. Premier Ford, nurses urge you to immediately move Ontario back to step 1 of Ontario's roadmap to reopen and repeal Bill 124. Let's work together to rebuild the nursing profession so it is there for all Ontarians. Yours warmly, Doris Grinspin, RN, MSN, PhD, Chief Executive Office, Morgan Hoffarth, President. Like, Doug Ford's goal with the healthcare system is to privatize it. Like, when you release a letter like this, when a letter like this gets released, all this does is verify that his plan is working. The plan is to destroy the healthcare system. That's the goal. The nurses signing a document saying the healthcare system is collapsing only confirms that the strategy is working. Because the next phase of the death cult is to say, oh, the public sector doesn't work after we've defunded it, committed austerity, strangled it, right? So we have to privatize it. The free market efficiencies, right? That's the whole idea. We've seen them do it again and again and again and again and again and again. And the only way it's going to stop is if the nurses surround the halls of power. That's literally the only thing it will respond to. And if you vote in a liberal, they're just going, what the liberal will do is put the little Band-Aid on it so that you'll go, well, at least they're not a conservative, right? And then when the conservative comes back in, the austerity begins anew and the project is renewed. Like, a liberal is not going to pull it back, right? They're just going to stop the bleeding here and stagnate it. And then when the conservative comes in, they pull it back down. Doug Ford's not going to resign. He's far too arrogant for that. He's far too arrogant for that. the conversation that I continuously bring up is who's voting for this guy? Who is voting for this guy? Like, who is the despicable, disgraceful people voting for this guy? What the fuck are you guys talking about? I'm like reading, I'm like talking about a fucking nursing shortage, and you guys are like, bread and roses, universal basic pizza, yeah. Yeah, Doug Ford literally supports killing Ontarians. I mean, that's the strategy, right? Right? It's just to kill us off. Like, they don't care about us. Like, I don't know, like, do you need it? What evidence do you need? Omicron is mild, but I'm all about increasing healthcare capacity. This narrative of Omicron is mild, right? So the WHO recently came out just this morning. I don't have it, but they actually said, like, stop calling Omicron mild. Like, it's one tick down from Delta, but it's killing people. Like, it's not mild. Like, it's still pretty scary. Like, the odd thing about this Omicron situation has sort of been like the normalization of it all. Like, the normalization of this, like, bungled disaster. Just like, it's like we're normalizing the apocalypse. Like, the apocalypse is just normal. Like a hell gate opens and demons start pouring out, and we're like, well, off to work. La, 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 la. Like, nah, how about no? How about no? From essential workers to unskilled workers, anyone think the politicians represent us? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Look how quickly that happened, eh? Look how quickly it went from, like, you guys are essential heroes, hero pay, to, like, oh, you're unskilled again. Get fucked. Like, get completely fucked. Like, everyone needs to walk off their job. Like, it just needs to happen. And we're starting to see that more and more, actually. I've got something here that is actually really, yeah. May Day strike has hit 10K members in a single day. So this is just like our anti-work suddenly had a big spike. Well, now here's a subreddit dedicated to a May Day strike, and in one day it got 10,000 people signing up to it. This May Day strike seems more legitimate than like, remember the October strikes? Like, that kind of didn't go anywhere, and it sort of, like, I shouldn't say it didn't go anywhere, but it was like diffuse. It wasn't like a punch. This looks like it's gonna have some more oomph behind it. We'll see, of course, but, like, people are hungry for it. People are ready. Like, the system has failed. Like, for God's sakes, like, who is this system benefiting anymore? Like, here's literally your nurses begging the premier to actually help them. And he's not going to. Because he doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care about anyone. Like, he literally doesn't give a fuck at all. All this communism stuff is always a sausage party. That's not true. That's not true. There's lots of women involved in communism. I wonder if people actually think these letters work. It's like bringing a pen to a knife fight. I mean, you got to try every single angle, right? Like, you got to try every single angle, but, like, it really is time for us to acknowledge that these guys, like, they don't care. Like, they've lost the ability to care. Like, even when they try to care, they just don't know how to. Like, why is Doug Ford bungling this constantly? Like, that, what was the line that they used? Is like last minute response and all this kind of stuff. It's because he doesn't even understand how to care, right? Even when even when he knows he's supposed to, he just doesn't know how to do it, right? It's like talking to a dog about quantum mechanics, right? Like, it's just not gonna connect. They're just happy you're talking to them. Not a narrative, it's science. The narrative is that it's not mild. I mean, but it's not mild. Like, it's still a deadly, like, disease. It's still going to kill lots of people. It's it's like one step down from Delta, sure, but it's still COVID. Who died from Omicron? There hasn't been a single death yet? What? Like, dude, yeah, there has. Like, yeah, people are dying of Omicron. Like, yes, they are. Like, stop spreading misinfo. Like, what? From, like, the hospitals? Like, yes, people have been dying from Omicron. For sure. 100%. The reason why the death rate isn't as high as Delta is because of the vaccine. Certainly. But the recent data that's coming out is showing that the split isn't as clear cut as we like. Did I actually keep that? I had something. Did I keep it? Probably didn't. Now I'm wishing I did though, because like the data that I'm seeing. First of all, people are definitely dying of Omicron. Like that is for sure happening. And the data that I'm seeing is showing that, like, yes, more unvaccinated people are being hospitalized, but it's not like 90%, 10%. It's like a 60-40 split. That's what I'm seeing. Is it wrong to cheer for the virus in regards to boomers? Probably. Yeah, I know. I understand that, but like, yeah, like probably not a good thing to do. The Great Resignation movement is not enough to make those in power shake in their boots. Something more needs to happen. Well, they want to starve us out, and they're outright saying it. Like they're not pretending like they're going to do anything else. Like their goal is to starve people out. And they have the ability to do that. Yeah, good old Justin Trudeau. We are going to end this pandemic by proceeding with the vaccination. There is still a part of the population fiercely against it. They don't believe in science or progress and are often very misogynistic and racist. They take up some space. This leads us as a leader in a country. Do we make a choice? Do we tolerate these people? Like, there's a reason why the anti-vax community exists, right? And it's not that they don't believe in science and progress, it's that they don't believe you. Like, they don't believe the government and they don't believe corporations. And, like, you haven't exactly done anything to earn their trust, right? Like, we're in a real, like, even if everything was 100% the truth, there's a real boy who cries wolf situation going on here. Like, that's for sure happening. There's more women in the socialist communist cause than anywhere else in the spectrum. That's the impression I get. Nobody has died from Omicron? Okay, dude. I mean, Omicron-related death reported in Kingston. Death 54% lower, but people are dying. Like, literally, I put Omicron deaths Canada in. And here, confirmed today, deaths. Like, no, I'm not going to ban, but like, sorry, dude. Like, like that, it's extremely easy to falsify that claim. It's like a one-off. Like literally, I put 3 words into Google. Like, death is 54% lower than Delta, right? This is where the mild narrative is coming in, right? But you do have the World Health Organization pointing out, like, and of course, Omicron is more transmissible. So it's going to increase hospitalizations. Like, you got to report on things that are accurate, dude. I genuinely don't understand why you're taking this position, JC. It's odd what you're doing. It's just odd. Like, total cases, like deaths. Delta. Oh, hey, here we go. Hold on. This is the risk of hospitalization and death was actually 60% lower. Hold on. Deaths 0. Ontario reported. No, has there legit been only 0? Because people are saying 54. Come on now. Hold on. Now we're on to something. Hold on. JC was the one that got me last time. Weren't you the one that came in and fucked me up with the facts before? Are you fucking me up again? I can't believe it. You're gonna get me twice. Are you for real gonna get me twice? Like, this is the article that I've been talking about. Omicron may be less severe in young and old, but not mild. A reduced risk of severity in both younger and old people. The remarks on the reduced severe. Come on. No. I've definitely seen. What's the information that I've been seeing here on our Ontario? Our Ontario's been doing a really good job of keeping up to date tally. Yeah, here you go. 20 deaths, but perhaps I'm just seeing that and attributing it to Omicron, when in reality it could be new variant cases, Omicron. Huh. But I do like to have my facts right. I do like to have my facts right. What is certain, and I definitely know that this is the truth, is that they are... Omicron is more transmissible, certainly. Certainly that's the case. I mean, like, January 6th update, 37 deaths. But are those 37 deaths because of Omicron? That's what we're discussing here. And I don't have something directly in front of me, actually. That's a good point. No, that's fair. That's fair to say. Like, what is it about Omicron? Mocked, you're just like bringing in some Stalin facts. And who knows what the long-term effect of Omicron is. That's true. Here, let's just do a Omicron. New variant cases, Omicron, like literally 0. But this data lags quite a bit. Huh. Yeah, I don't have something in front of me, so you're right. I can't actually just, like, pound on the pulpit on this one. But, and, like, from what I had been seeing, deaths were lower generally. But this is why I fucking hate talking about this vaccine, about vaccines and COVID generally. Because there's so much fucking information and everything's, like, so fucking fine and absurd and ridiculous. All right, I'm going to dig deeper into this one. I'm going to put this over here. I'm going to loop back around on it. Because, like, the narrative of Omicron was always that it transmits faster, but it's less deadly. You're going to radicalize. How? I'm already a communist. Like, radicalize me what? How? Like, I already think we're ruled by psychopaths. Scientists are calling Omicron nature's vaccine. Nature's vaccine. I don't even know what to think of that. Like, what? All right. Deaths with comorbidity, children not vaccinated just died yesterday. You are suspicious of mainstream media, but not when it comes to COVID. I I see what you've done there, pissed off. You've flipped the script. This is slightly different because, like, this kind of data that I'm looking at here is not, like, this is coming from the hospitals. Like, this is straight up, like, Ontario CA, right? Like, if you're not going to trust this shit, like, if you're going to think that this is bullshit, right? Like, maybe I could find in this document, actually. Let's see. Like, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about source documents, right? Like, this isn't the mainstream media. This is the doctors and the nurses and the researchers and the people. Like, if you're not trusting this stuff, then it's all fucking a wash. Like, the whole thing is like everything is just done, right? Like, there does come a point where you've got to hold up something and be like, okay, this is the information. And this is the information, right? Like, this is the raw data. And are we... What we're discussing now is, have there been actually any deaths declared due to Omicron, right? Like, has there been like a death count specifically that we can look at and say, Omicron did this. This is the Omicron variant. The claim made by JC is there have been no Omicron-related deaths reported, which I was initially skeptical of, because it seems like, no, it's got to be killing somebody, right? So you have something like this, right? Like, confirmed deaths among COVID-19 cases by date of death, right? So there are deaths happening for sure. But the question is it specifically Omicron related, right? And like, it makes sense that there's like a death spike in and around the January 3rd mark of last year, right? We all remember the second wave, and then of course the bump back up. But now we're not getting the same kind of stuff. Like, we're not getting the same kind of thing. I think the concern now is just that Omicron is so transmissible. Like, it's a numbers game, right? Like if you have 1,000 people, and like 10% of those people die, that means you're going to have 100. But if it's so transmissible that it's going to infect 100,000 people and 10% and only 1% of those die, well, then that's 1,000 people, right? Like, so it's did I do that math right? Anyway, you guys understand what I'm saying, right? But it's but yeah, that's an interesting claim, and I'm going to dig a little deeper on that, because, like, has there been anybody who has been, like, verified Omicron death unrelated? I mean, like, this article keeps popping up. Health officials in Kingston, Ontario say one of the recent COVID-19 deaths in the city over Christmas linked to the Omicron variant of concern. Didn't provide any other details about the patient who died during a media briefing. But we also know that because of the interview that Joe Rogan had with Robert Malone, that they're reporting COVID deaths even if the cause of death is unrelated to COVID. That, like, if somebody had COVID or tested positive for COVID, but they got, like, shot, that they're saying it's COVID, because then they get, like, a funding increase, right? That COVID-related stuff actually increases their et cetera, and on and on. Fuck this shit, man. Fuck all this shit. This shit bothers me so goddamn much. Like, we should just all be hunkering down. Like, we should just be hunkering down, and but for fuck's sake, it's winter, first of all. We should all just be hibernating. Like, it's just fucking, this whole thing's pissing me off so much. Then after kulaks and corrupt government officials caused the famine, they turned around during the Great Purge, criticized Stalin for clearing out the Central Committee. Well, I mean, like, and the Great Purge, like, I love it that the capitalists, like, they bring up the purges, but they're like, yeah, dude, like, people were assassinated. There was like an assassination. Like, yeah, you're gonna want to take a look at what's going on in your own people. Like, if suddenly, like, Kamala Harris was assassinated, you would expect there to be some kind of investigation and then a purge. Like, you would expect that, right? But oh, it's the commies, right? Yeah, lots of time they report deaths with people who died with Omicron, but not necessarily from Omicron, and that's straight from the for-profit hospitals. Yes, exactly, and that's verified by Robert Malone, right? Like, Robert Malone is a very interesting figure in this conversation. My big critique, well, not critique, but kind of statement of the anti-vax movement generally, is that, like, where's the whistleblower? Like, there's always a whistleblower. There is always a whistleblower, right? Like, that's what gives the Bush did 9/11. Like, that's the reason why, like, Bush did 9/11, it doesn't really pan out correctly, because it's like, well, okay, where's the whistleblower, right? Like, and you can find people who are like, here's an odd thing that kind of happened. Like, here's a thing. Like, but when you have stories that are of that scale, there's always a whistleblower, 100% of the time. Like, Edward Snowden is a whistleblower, right? Assange, Julian Assange, right? Like, he himself was not the whistleblower, but he's the guy that published the whistleblowers. So, like, those guys always exist. And now here we have Robert Malone, right? He's ringing the bell, and while not going all the way that the anti-vax want to see, which is like the vaccine is not a thing and the Omicron, he's a little bit more nuanced in what he's saying. But definitely he's pointing out that, like, the for-profit model and the corporate model is corrupting the process, right? So now we're coming into a thing where we're saying you cannot trust the hospital's self-reported numbers. Because, and there is actually something to that now. Because sure, maybe someone actually had it, like they had COVID, but we know that COVID doesn't necessarily mean that a person is going to be, like, deathly sick, right? And, like, yeah, someone who dies in hospital from a gunshot wound but testing positive for COVID is recorded as a COVID death. Yeah, that's what Malone was saying. And, I mean, I believe it. Like, I believe it. Why would I not believe that? Especially when you got a guy like him saying it, right? That's because he's such a credible figure. Like, that's the thing about Malone. Like, all of the other guys that Rogan has had on his podcast are always, like, kooky weirdos out in the wilderness, right? They're always sort of oddballs. Robert Malone is not an oddball. He literally the inventor of mRNA vaccination processes, right? Has worked internally, like, really, really, like, a respected doctor, a respected medical professional. Why would he come forward with any of this stuff? Like, why would he do that if it wasn't for the concern and for the pursuit of the truth? Like, he has nothing to gain and everything to lose. Like, and that's what really gives whistleblowers credibility. Like, Edward Snowden, for example, like, he simply did not need to come forward. Like, he could have just kept everything under his hat, just put his head down, worked his job, right? Forgot about it. But he didn't, right? And that's what gives these guys a lot of credibility. And the way that YouTube has pulled the Malone shit off of their platform, like, straight up. There were clips that were circulating, right? Joe Rogan would put some clips up of Malone, and YouTube has pulled them all down, right? Like, they banned him off Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Like, this is a significant, like, that's a pretty significant response. And I think it's because they're scared of him. They're scared of him because he's a respected person who's kind of poking holes in what they're saying. And at the very least, shining light on the corruption of it all and making the conversation much more nuanced and difficult. Because, like, what do the politicians and what do the wealthy want, right? They just want everybody to shut up and take the vaccine, right? And it is highly likely that the vaccine actually is effective. Like, that's if it wasn't the case that the vaccine was like not effective, then why would other nations be creating and distributing vaccines, right? Vaccination is obviously part of it. But what Malone really brings forward is that there are many other ways to tackle this thing, right? Why aren't we doing all of those other things as well? I think that's the larger point. JC, man, you're just coming in here stirring the pot. You lady. Hard to be mad, man. Hard to be mad. Hey, at least this time you didn't get me on like a straight out false claim. Like at least I wasn't accusing Justin Trudeau of being a pedophile this time. This fucking this is the reason I don't like fucking talking about this thing, man. There's too goddamn much. There's too much. It's too ridiculous. There's too many angles. There's too much stuff. What I do know is that today's clip I talked about how the Trudeau administration is attempting to scapegoat anti-vaxxers to get us to not pay attention to them. And that's absolutely the fucking truth. That's absolutely the truth. Like, they want to drive a wedge in the populace so that we'll be pointing the fingers at the anti-vaxxers and be saying to the anti-vaxxers, you're the reason this is all happening. No, they're not. The anti-vaxxers are not the reason why this is still happening, right? Our elected officials and our corporations are 100% the reason why this shit is still happening. There are other societies and other nations that have this shit more in hand and more under control. Like, for sure. Type this in YouTube search, CNN. Oh my God. We're going down the rabbit hole, guys. We're going down the fucking rabbit hole. This is a moment where I really want to say, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to give myself like a little pat on the back. I am happy that I am a person who just admits when he is wrong. That's right. That's the positive, guys, is that the reason why I'm the best is because when it turns out that I'm incorrect, I go, oh shit, I'm incorrect. Is it the Jimmy Dore? Are we putting Jimmy Dore on? Let's put fucking Jimmy Dore on. Let's do it.
First off, I want to bring in my
15 minutes
guest
though, dude.
Today. He is Dan Cohen. He's an independent journalist and filmmaker based in D.C. He's reported from Israel, Palestine, Latin America, the U.S.-Mexico border for outlets like the Mondo Weiss, The Nation, Alternate, The Gray Zone. Cohen is also a cinematographer and an editor of the documentary Killing Gaza. Please welcome to the show, Dan Cohen. Hey, Dan, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, Jimmy. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm working for an outlet called Behind the Headlines, alongside with Mint Press News. So that's my current employer. So I gotta, make sure.
Yeah, Tom, I think you're onto it too. Like, no, they want everyone to shut up and go back to work. Like, absolutely. Like, they really do want everybody to shut the fuck up and just go back to work. For sure. Sure
to give a shout out there.
Yeah, definitely. Big fans of Mint Press News, sure. So the reason why I have you on today is because you performed a very valuable service in fighting back against the propaganda around COVID and
Oh yeah, Carrot Top, man. I fucking love Carrot. Joe Rogan did an interview with Carrot Top. Like, that's what's hilarious about Joe Rogan's podcast, dude. Is that, like, he does this, like, whistle-blowing, like, expose. It's, like, explosive. Robert Malone. It's, like, probably going to be one of the most important interviews done all year. And then the next day, he's fucking talking to Carrot Top. I'm like, Carrot Top? Really? Let's look at Carrot Top, dude. And you know what, dude? I'm going to tell everybody. Fucking YouTube Carrot Top. That guy's legit. If you think that Carrot Top is not a legit comedian, then you do not appreciate good comedy. He's what he is. He's a prop comic. But for fuck's sake, like, I have no shame about that. He made me laugh. He makes me laugh. Good enough.
Specifically Omicron. Now, let's remember, Omicron is, by any other name, it would be called a cold. But if you rename it and you call it Omicron, you can scare the shit out of people.
Omicron.
And that's what they've done.
Okay.
Right? I'm not saying that the Omicron is a cold. I'm saying the Omicron presents the same symptoms as the common cold. It's very mild, But that doesn't stop Big Pharma and their bought media from scaring the hell out of everyone over something that is presenting as a cold. So now how are they trying to scare you? They're telling you that Omicron is actually killing people. You ready for this? Here we go.
We've just confirmed the first death in the United States due to the Omicron variant in Texas.
1 month.
In Texas, CNN confirms the first death from Omicron. And you can hear the big pharma boards coming in their pants because someone died of Omicron, and now their people are going to be so scared they're going to take 3,000 more boosters, right? Well, Dan, tell us what you did when you saw that.
Well, I saw headlines saying, first Omicron death. And then I also saw headlines saying first Omicron related death, which are two totally
different things.
Totally different things. Exactly. So, I figured I would just do what any journalist, or you don't even have to be a journalist, what anyone who's interested, any regular person would do, and just call the authorities, which happens to be the Harris County Department of Health in Texas. And I just called them,
I am amazed, guys. I am amazed. You guys know me. I'm the most skeptical person in the world. And they keep getting me. God, they keep getting me. They keep getting me. Fuck this whole thing, right? Fuck this whole thing. Everybody should just stay the fuck home, stop going out, stop participating in this fucking shit show. Stop participating in this fucking shit show. Take the media away from the psychopaths, please. Can we just have less psychopaths? Can we just have less psychopaths? It's just brutal. It's just fucking brutal.
Phone tag back and forth, and within a few hours, they told me.
But then okay. But this is hilarious. Then okay, so let's move forward with this narrative. Then so Omicron is mild, right? It's transmissible. It's transmitting, but it's not killing anybody, and it's like the common cold, right? That's what we're gonna roll with this narrative here. But then they so they're scaring the hell out of you because they want you to get the vaccine and the booster, and it's money, right? And they're scaring you. But they also want you to go back to work, right? So take the vaccine, scary, all that kind of stuff, but don't stay home, right? So they're trying to have it both ways, right? And it's so they simultaneously want you to be terrified enough so that you'll actually buy their boosters and get the vaccines and do all this stuff. But then they also want you to be going to work and then there's the labor shortage, and there's all this kind of, and it's it just reaffirms what I have always said. Well, not always, but what I've come to say about this culture, which is there's no fucking plan at all. Everybody's just a self-interested, short-sighted loser. Right? And that the people who are buy my vaccine don't give a fuck if it collapses the labor market or anything. They don't care at all. And there's literally no one at any point in this whole conversation is going, maybe we should be concerned about a meta picture? Maybe we should be concerned about the larger... Yeah. They're also forcing bus drivers and nurses to go back to work still positive after 5 days. Yeah, that's definitely the truth. That's definitely the truth. Right? Boy howdy, do we ever need to just dig our heels in, man. Boy howdy, do we ever just need to dig our heels in and just stop participating. Just fucking stop participating. I recently have found myself going down to my local coffee shop and getting a cup of coffee and talking to the people there and all that, but fuck that shit. No more. Capitalism needs to go. This whole thing needs to fucking die. The zombie needs to go. It needs to die. Maybe there's a profit motive for pharmaceutical companies, but in general, there isn't much to be made shutting down the entire economy. I believe profit motive is involved, but that's why they aren't forcing everyone to stay home. honestly, man, I just think they want their cake and their eat it too, right? Like it's just another product now. Like it's just another product. And they can't, like, just how they can't get, like, they can't get you to buy makeup if you think you're already pretty, right? If you're happy with the way you look and you're happy with everything, then you're not going to buy makeup. So they need to convince you that you're ugly. And you're not going to take the vaccine. You're not going to do stuff if you're not feeling like your life is threatened, if you're not under, like, a mortal thing. So they need to scare the shit out of you. There's just, like, no bottom to this, eh? Like, there's just no bottom to it. Right? Like, I keep thinking that we're gonna hit the bottom. And that it's like, oh, okay, we did it. We finally got to the bottom. Like, we got to the lowest these guys are gonna sink. And I just, like, gotta remind myself, and this is fucking depressing, but it's absolutely true. Like, these guys will fucking arm people to go to war with each other. Like, the bottom of this thing is like buildings being blown up. That's the bottom. And until we get there, we're not at the bottom. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. That's what I'm trying to avoid. That's what kills me about the people who come in here and they're like, this is the best time ever. Everything's the nicest. We've got the most stuff and everything's great right now. It's like, oh, like, but you get that we could blow it up, right? Like, you get that. You get that we could just, like, blow it apart. And that's where it looks like we're going, right? Like, I hope we don't. It'd be really great if we didn't. It'd be really great if we didn't. Yep, until we stop complying. Yeah, this will never end. And I mean, and that's a large, that goes beyond this whole vaccine thing. That goes beyond this whole COVID thing, right? Like, we need to be doing that for every aspect of our life. Like, it's just ridiculous. Oh yeah, no. You're right about that, JC. Like, wear makeup because it's awesome. Fuck yeah. Like, you do you, but like, or like, I'm trying to think of like a good example that people can't be like, I just wear it because I like it, or like any of that kind of stuff. But like, that's the concept behind it. Like, they can't sell you a self-help book if you're content, right? Like, if you're just like happy and with your life and all that, like, they can't. So they got to convince you there's something fucking wrong with you initially. Like, that's what I'm driving at. I stopped wearing makeup because I refused to spend $29 for animal-tested chemicals on my face, yeah. The real problem is we can't trust our institutions and leaders. Yeah, after lying so much and causing so much death and destruction for years, they lost all credibility. That's really, and they're trying really hard to deflect from that, which to me is the most important thing to be talking about, right? Like, that is the most important thing to be talking about. That, like, we have gotten to a point now, right, where, oh, there's something wrong with me. Didn't need a capitalist to tell me that. But, like, it's the boy who cried wolf, right? Carlos Berry. Gotta tell you, bud, I really like that name. There's something nice about that name. I don't know why. I just really do. Yeah, you know what? I got to stop talking about this. So the perfect time, Carlos. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for coming in and getting me away from all this COVID shit, because for fuck's sake. Like, for fuck's sake. For fuck's sake. It's just annoying. Like, it's just annoying. Like, I think the thing that's the most annoying about it. Here, I'll make this statement, then I'll move on to your thing, Carlos. Like, thank Christ, you're rescuing me. The thing that's annoying about it is that it's creating a lot of chaos that doesn't need to be there. Like, that's really what it is, right? Like, boy, would it be nice to live in a society where we all, like, moved together, made a decision, like, and as a unit moved towards the most beneficial outcome. And if somebody stood up and was like, I think that this would also help, we go, this gentleman thinks that this would also help. And that adds to, like, the pile of everybody trying to help, right? But if somebody stands up and says, I think this would also help, somebody else goes, but that means we get less money. And so then they gotta, like, lie about it and, like, deceive, and there's all this deception. And it's just annoying at this point. Like, it's annoying now. Like, can we please, for the love of God, just live in a society where everybody is at least attempting to help? Like, at least. Like, for fuck's sake. For fuck's sake. Guitar time. You know what, JC? That's a good fucking call, actually. That's a good fucking call. What do I want to play? You know what I want to fucking play? You know what I want to play? I know exactly what I want to play. I'm going to do this. And then I promise, Carlos, I'm coming back around. I'm coming back around, I promise. Some people are going to chirp at you in the chat for sure. What do I want to play? Come on. Come on. Where is it? Oh, that's the one. I was going to play something else, but then I saw this. I actually... So funny, man. I forget that I have songs. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, I'm definitely forgetting how to play this song. Shoot a rich man into space. Gotta get ahead of the human race. And we're the lazy ones working at the end of your nukes and your guns. And we don't even care. Bring on the doom. Light up this apocalypse. We'll be going soon. God let his chosen ones wander forever in the burning sun. And 10 times worse the fate for us. Forget him, worship the dust. And we don't even care. Bring on the doom. Light up this apocalypse. We'll be going soon. Baptize us with rising tides. Never let us see what hides inside. And cover our sins with dollar signs. The fire will burn away our pride. And we don't even care. Bring on the doom. Light up this apocalypse. We'll be going soon. You could have done anything at all. You could have done anything at all. You could have done anything at all. And you chose this. We don't even care. Bring on the doom. Light up this apocalypse. We'll be going soon. We don't even care. Bring on the doom. Light up this apocalypse. We'll be going soon. We don't even care. Bring on the doom. Light up this apocalypse. We'll be going soon. Fucking yeah, like we fucking light this shit up, like this fucking god, shit, fucking ball, god, crapping, shitting balls, fucking crapping, dicks. Okay. Ugh. I already did the number of the day, Grinning. I already did the number of the day. So, Carlos, that is not a dumb question, dude. That is the question, isn't it? Get this shit out of here. Get this shit out of here. I don't want to see this shit anymore. Go the fuck away. Go the fuck away. All of this shit. Let me find something that's actually like. Okay, yeah, this is fine. This is fine. We'll open an image there. We can look at this. Oh my god. Oh! Okay. Why do you want Canada to become communist? Because I want us to make decisions rationally. That's really what it is. That capitalism is an inherently antagonistic society. There is a fight, a constant, ongoing, eternal fight that exists structurally in capitalism. That the struggle is between an ownership class, people who own the means of production, own the labor market, and people who don't own anything. In Marxian terms, it's the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. And these two are in an eternal fight with one another. And the solutions that capitalism comes up with for how to ameliorate the difficulties that arise between these two are, in my view, ineffective. Unions, for example, like by all means unionize, right? But all you're really doing is just ganging up and forming together to fight back more effectively against your class antagonist that is structurally built. And this antagonism ultimately leads to the destruction of the system, right? And straight up, that's a problem to me. Like, I look at that and think, boy, howdy, would it be nice to live in a system that didn't have that kind of antagonism whatsoever. And that is what communism attempts to do. And the more I investigate communism, the more I see that its quote-unquote failures are usually brought about by capitalist forces. That, for example, the collapse of the Soviet Union, right? Like, the collapse of the Soviet Union it didn't come about because communism failed, right? It came about because neoliberal capitalists corrupted the system. And figures like Gorbachev, Yeltsin, right, Khrushchev, right? They allowed themselves to become corrupted by wealth and power and prestige for themselves personally, to move away from the idea that, hey, maybe we should do things for the benefit of the populace, into, hey, I would like to be wealthy personally, and I don't really care what happens to the society ultimately. Like, and every single time the capitalists and the communists have actually had a straight fight, the communists have won, right? You're looking at the defeat of the Nazis by the Soviet Union. You're looking at the defeat of the Americans by the Vietnamese, by the Cambodians, right? I'm obviously missing one. Like I'm gonna miss some. And now you're looking at a situation where the strongest communist society on the planet right now which is China, is about to overtake the kind of the largest power on the planet in terms of its capabilities. And it's doing it instead of by dropping bombs and by creating antagonism everywhere it goes. It's doing it by building rail and creating trade. And I'm just like, boy, I would love to live in a society that was doing that. Boy, I would love to live in a society that was like building shit and attempting to create a society based on principles of stability, right? Like we have all experienced economic collapses. I've experienced 3 economic collapses, and those economic collapses have had drastic impacts on my life, right? I have experienced each collapse, and each one of those has fucked me completely. And it's fucked millions of us completely. I'm over it. Like, I'm fucking over it. I would like my society to become communist. Because I would like, at the very least, I would like us all to be moving together towards an objective collectively. Together. As a people. And we just don't do that. We just are not doing that. Kate coming in, asking the dangerous shit. What are your thoughts on abortion? it's completely up to the person seeking the abortion and and their doctor. This idea that anyone else should be involved in the process whatsoever, I think, is absurd, right? Like fucking ridiculous. Like it should be noted that the people who are fighting to force women to have these babies want to abandon them the second they do, right? They don't give a fuck about this. Those people are living in just like a utopian ideological space, right? If they actually genuinely cared, if they were actually genuinely pro-life, they would be supporting massive welfare systems. They would be supporting, like, at the very least, they would be supporting, like, adoption systems, right? Something like this. But no, literally, it's like, have the baby and then go get fucked. That's basically what happens. And so, no, the only person who should answer the question, should I have an abortion, is the woman who is pregnant. And, like, if you want to get existential about it, like, it's no skin off the baby's back. Like, even if you think it's like a life, right? Like, even if you think it's murder or any of that, like, what's the actual experience of the baby? Nothing. For real, nothing. Like, it's like, you picture like an existential ghost spirit living in existential space town, and there's like a bunch of gates, and like it's about to go through one of the gates, and then the gate closes, and it's just like, oh, okay. And so it just picks another fucking gate. Like, there's a lot of just dumb fuckery involved in this conversation that I'm over. Like, I'm over it. Like, there's only one person whose opinion matters, and that's the person who has the baby, who is pregnant, right? Their opinion of what to do with it only matters. And then the doctor's opinion matters insofar as the safety of the mother is concerned. Conversation's over. Everything outside of that is just like some crazy, like narcissistic, sadistic, like kinky shit. It's like a form of kink is what it is. That like you can inflict your will on other people as like a fucking white supremacist. It's that kind of shit. So like, and eat like is it fuck murder? Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Like, the thing's not even sentient. Like, it's not. It isn't. It has no concept of what is going on in the fucking world at all. You're not murdering a baby. Like, get like fucking. The whole thing is just completely childish, and completely refuses to acknowledge that like this is complex. Like, it's this whole thing. Like, I remember watching this really interesting documentary on Planned Parenthood, and isn't it interesting how like everybody's supposed to have an opinion, but nobody's supposed to actually go talk to the fucking doctors, right? Like, nobody's actually supposed to go talk to the people who are actually doing this shit, right? And you go talk to them and they're like, yeah, like, there's all kinds of reasons why a woman needs an abortion, right? Like, something's going wrong in the pregnancy, right? Like, it's like it's like we're only ever supposed to consider like one situation, which is like a young girl that got pregnant and just doesn't want to be pregnant. That's like the only circumstance that we're supposed to like watch Juno, and that's what's going on. And like most of the time it's actually a health concern. Like, and that seems fucking believable. It seems completely believable to me that a being that is growing another being inside of them would have a fucking health concern, and that the best decision would be to have an abortion in order to save the mother who is sentient and alive already. Like, the laws that they are passing in the United States give women less rights than corpses. Straight up. Straight fucking up. I worked in funeral services. If somebody wants something done to their body after they die, they can write it down, and that's what fucking happens. Why? Because it's their body, their choice. Right? But if a woman wants to not experience some kind of health trauma, right? Well, she needs to ask permission from some fucking man. Some fucking asshole wearing like a wig and a suit in a fucking room somewhere. Who gives a fuck about any of this? Like, fuck all of that. Like, when I talk about how embarrassing our society is, it's this kind of shit. It's fucking embarrassing. It is grow up time. It is time to grow up. Let people make decisions with what they should do with their own body, full stop, story's over. And if you're like, but they're murdering babies, and that's your own problem, you could talk about them in the corner. Right? Because that's like an abstract, philosophical, spiritual conversation that you need to have off in the corner. We live in reality where real things fucking happen. Right? And you know what's going to happen to every single one of these fucking people who are like, oh, it's child, baby, all that kind of stuff? Well, they're going to get, like, when they get pregnant and have a health concern and need to get an abortion, suddenly it'll all be okay. It'll all be, oh, totally fine. Because that's how conservatives roll. Right? It's evil when everyone else does it, but when I need it, it's permissible. It's completely fine. Like, and also, okay, so that's all that. Here's the other point. This place isn't that nice. Like, this place isn't that nice. Like, the people who are talking about, like, the pro-lifers, they talk about this place like it's, like, heaven. They talk about this place as if you're gonna, like, come in here and, like, Jesus Christ is gonna give you a pat on the head, and then you're gonna go ride a unicorn over a rainbow to heaven, right? Like, that's how they talk about this place. This place is not that nice, right? And if somebody is saying, you know what, this place isn't that great, I'm just not gonna let a kid come into this, I think you might be doing them a favor. Just saying. Like, maybe if this place was, like, super nice and, like, full of people who weren't white supremacist racists and assholes, like, maybe if the place was actually, like, lovely and wonderful, then all of their bullshit about, like, it's murder would actually make sense. But this place isn't that fucking nice. Like, make the place nicer. Maybe I'll change my tune. But, like, if a mom is gonna have a kid and is like, this place seems whack, no thanks, I'm like, yeah, maybe okay. Like, maybe a decent call. The music with Dan Cohen's face frozen like that is perfect. Oh, yeah. What was he? I closed it. I don't give a shit. Ugh. Okay, hold on. You guys carried on without me. I just went on a big abortion thing there. This COVID shit, dude, it's really like, fuck this whole thing. All right, who hasn't liked the stream? That's right. Also, give me money. It's my birthday. How would communism benefit above capitalism? Again, loaded question. I mean, like, less homelessness, more literacy, right? Like, people actually having food and shelter. University is usually free under communist societies. I mean, there's so many different angles to take this with. Like, the communists were the first people into space. The Chinese are like inventing quantum computing as we're talking. They built high-speed rail systems in 12 years while we're sitting with a thumb in our ass. Like, capitalism is actually stagnation. Like, it really actually is. Because the only thing that capitalists care about is money. And that's as far as their imagination goes. So it doesn't matter what you imagine. If you can't somehow tie it into this money idea, then it dies. Whereas in communist societies, if you have an idea and a bunch of you all get together and you're like, what a cool, interesting idea. Oh, let's just do that idea. What a great idea. And then you do it. And why? Because it's a cool idea and you want to do it. Right? Like when the Soviets were going into space, they weren't doing it because they were like, profit motive. We're going to get to space for profit. They were saying, we're going to get to space because that's fucking baller. That's fucking thug cool. We're going to get to fucking space. And the only reason why the Americans started doing it too is because it was embarrassing them. That's what was happening. They were looking at the fucking Soviets shooting rockets into space, sending men into space, sending men around the earth, right? And going like, oh shit, this is 100% showing that communism is a far superior system to capitalism. in leaps and bounds. And so they stole all of that, right? And I'll say it over and over and over again, right? They created a false checkpoint, right? The moon race. The Soviets were like, moon race? We're racing? There's a race? Like, they didn't give a shit about the race. Like, who cares about this? It wasn't a race. Like, and if it is a race, why isn't the checkpoint to get to space? Why is the checkpoint to get to the moon? Right? Why is the checkpoint not get to space? Oh, you know why that wasn't the checkpoint? Because the Soviets already cleared that one. Not only did they get to space, they sent a life form up to space and back alive, and then they sent a man up there and sent it back alive. That's way more difficult and dangerous to do than getting a man to the moon. Like, it's way more difficult to get to break that barrier. That's a huge barrier to get to space. Like, why is that not the checkpoint? Oh, because the Soviets did it. That's why. And then when the Americans started playing that game, did they do it with like private enterprise? Did they do it with like incentives? Right? No. They created a state-funded system. They used a bunch of fucking Nazis. Right? They duplicated the state system that the Soviets were using in order to achieve it. They didn't use free market capitalism. They didn't use any of that. Like, so like, on what grounds is capitalism a valid system? Like, what are the actual grounds for this? Because near as I can tell, it's all just illusionary fraudulence. Like, we have all this wealth that we literally stole through acts of genocidal violence. Like, the people walking around being like, well, at least capitalism generates wealth. No, it doesn't. It steals wealth. Right? Go talk to the entirety of South America and Africa and the Middle East. Like, capitalism does not generate wealth. It steals wealth and enslaves people and forces the slaves to make their shit. That's how America was actually built. Like, what credibility has this system whatsoever? The only thing that capitalists are good at is propaganda. It's the only thing they're good at. And the moment you realize that and you realize that everything they say is bullshit, the mask comes right off and you see it for what it is. What happened to Litton? I'm too tired, dude. I'm too fucking tired. Now I'm like fucking angry. The COVID shit, man. Piss me fucking off. If we're going to spend 40% of 40 years working at a job we hate at a place we hate, I think it's fair to say that we should have some say in how the place is governed. Yeah. Like, businesses are tyrannies. Like, the worst kind of tyrannies. They are dictatorships. Right? Like, you have no say in how they're run. You're told what to do, what to think. And it's explicit, by the way. Like, management is fairly explicit. Like, your opinion doesn't matter at all. It does always come down to just do what you're told. Right? And, like, you don't have a vote. You don't have a say. Right? And that's where we spend most of our fucking time. And we spend most of our life either doing that or preparing to do that. Like, how about no? Like, how about fucking no? How about we actually have a say about how these places are run and how we want to live our lives and how we want to interact with our own society, right? And how about we do that without constantly being at odds with people who are worthless, provide no value, offer no service, do not improve the situation, and extract all of the value for themselves. Like, so we all have housing. Where's the pug life? He's over at my ex's. He's over at my ex's. So we have all housing, co-opportunity, and exploitations. We need versus what we want. Yeah. What about the concentration of power inherent in communism? So this narrative is bullshit. This is incredible bullshit. Okay? the concentration of power inherent in communism. Like what? Like when? When did this happen? Is it happening currently in the National People's Congress? Like this is the Chinese system. It's a democracy where they elect seats. The red here is the Communist Party. Here are the other parties, right? The gray are independents. So like, what's the concentration of power inherent in communism, right? Joseph Stalin was elected, right? Like, did Stalin have a lot of power? Yes, because he was given it. He was voted in with it. He was a very effective leader and a very effective politician. And he was voted into power. Like, when Trotsky and Stalin have their political face-off, right? Like when Lenin died, right? And there was a political struggle, it happened through voting. And Stalin won, right? And so this idea that there's like a concentration of power, like, yes, there is a leader, right? But that leader exists because of the will of the people within the structural system. And are there purges of the Communist Party? Like, are there purges of the governmental ruling system? Yeah. Yeah, especially after assassinations. Shit like that, right? And who are they purging? The people who are saying things like, yeah, maybe we should abandon the populace for money for ourselves. Like, so this idea that there's a concentration of power inherent in communism. Meanwhile, the capitalist system concentrates wealth in the hands of what, 10 billionaires? On purpose, and it's in the document? Like, the American Constitution says in it, you can see it with your eyes, it says that the point of this is to keep power within the wealth of the nation. Like, that's a concentration of wealth, of power. Inherently, structurally built into the Constitution of American capitalism. Like, when people say to me that there's a concentration of power and it's inherent in communism, I literally don't know what they're talking about. Like, I literally don't. Like, these are democratic structures. They're not Western democracies. They're democratic structures that are built, and especially in the Chinese case, because the Chinese saw what happened in the Soviet Union. And they are very, very concerned about the corruptibility of these systems. And they're doing everything they can to ensure that the system cannot be corrupted. And that the system has a constant check on itself in order to avoid that. And the argument in Western parliamentary systems has always been, well, we've got the spheres of power, right? That's the check. That's always been the argument. But that argument doesn't actually bear out. The reality of why there are spheres of power is to ensure that calcification actually happens. That if the people actually do manage to take over one of the spheres of power, there will be other spheres in order to stop them. That's the point of that. What you see in communist systems and communist democracies is a democracy that is responsive to the people. Which is why it's incredibly popular. Right? Harvard has done polling in China. They had a study where they did polling for 18 years. And they discovered that the people were actually wildly in favor of the government and how things were going. Right? And not only were they wildly in favor, but their opinion of the government improved over time. And part of that is because when they go and vote for someone, that someone says, well, what is something you'd like to see? And they say, this is something I would like to see. And then they turn around and they start doing that thing that they want to see. Boy, I hope I'm alive to see some real shit go down. I hope I'm alive to see some real fucking shit go down. Like, wouldn't it be great if they actually did, like, arrest Donald Trump? Like, wouldn't it be amazing if over all this, like, Epstein stuff, they actually did lay charges? Ah, man, that'd be great. That'd be so good, man. I think lots of people would be, like, hooting and hollering over that. It's not going to happen, obviously, but, like, it'd be cool. It'd be cool. Yes, however, the house of cards we stand on has been built over many years. Everyone overcorrects and leads to civil war. I think capitalism has so far the most successful means of operation, but obviously I would love utopia. Like, capitalism has been the most successful because it's the most inherently violent. Like, capitalism is born through outright murdering the monarchy, right? Or straight out stealing shit from the monarchy, enslaving the serfs that live on the land, like forcing the serfs off of their land into factories, right? And conscripting many of them to go to the African continent to enslave a black population, and then to come to North America and commit a genocide against the First Nations people, and South America as well, right? There were entire civilizations in South America that are just gone. Just fucking gone, right? The looting of the Incans and the Aztecs, right? The outright looting was so incredible. They stole so much gold that it almost collapsed the gold market. Like the barbarousness of capitalism, right away, like from day fucking one, is apparent. And I mean, you can call that successful if you like, and I guess it has been, but it's based entirely on violence. Completely. Like, we want it, so we take it. I think capitalism is the only means of freedom. Kate. This word, freedom. 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 If you go to a job that you barely tolerate, or even if you like it, right? To work for people you've never met, or maybe you met once, to do something that you're just told to do, are you free? If a person can walk up to you and say, you're fired, get out of here, are you free? Is that freedom? Right? And if you're given the choice between engage in a labor market that's controlled by these people, or go off and starve in a corner somewhere on the street, are you free? Like, we have a very odd idea of freedom in this country. It's a very odd idea of what freedom is. That selling yourself into a labor market that is owned by a billionaire class is called freedom. And I just don't accept that. I look at that and go, no, that's just a form of slavery. That's just a wage slave system. Instead of me being sold to an individual, I'm expected to sell myself into a market that's owned by the same people that would buy me if they could. Like, and this wage slave system, right? It's not a new idea. Abraham Lincoln ran on the platform of abolishing this system. The system that we have right now. Abraham Lincoln was elected on the platform of abolishing this system, but could only muster the political will in order to fight a civil war in order to eliminate chattel slavery, which the Confederates argued was a superior and more moral system than the wage slave system that's in place now. And this is the language they used. They said that chattel slavery is more moral because when there's no work to be done, you still have to take care of the slave. Whereas under a wage slave system, if the work dries up, you can get rid of the slave, and the slave is expected to fend for himself. Right? If you're laid off, if you're tossed out onto the street and you can't find work for yourself, well, what happens? You can go to the parks and see what happens. And this is called freedom. I simply don't accept it. I simply do not. And any system that's going to try to convince me that selling myself to people for food and shelter that's withheld from me is freedom is a system that needs to be torn down to the ground. That its foundations need to be pulled up. We need to till the soil. And the only literature that we should ever write about it is to warn future generations to never erect such a system again. The system can't be reformed. It simply cannot be reformed. It has to be torn down and it has to be replaced. Yeah, what comes after capitalism? Every system lives and dies. What's next? Because of Gorbachev, we have many things. Oh, yeah. Lady, you're old enough to have seen the Nazis kill 20 million of your people, and now you're seeing Gorbachev sell vital public institutions you depend on. Yeah, I know, right? Well, and many of the Soviet states, including Russia itself, having tasted both capitalism and communism, they want to go back to communism, right? There are exceptions, of course, but like by and large, by giving all power to the superiors, but that's the inverse of what actually happens, right? Like, the dictatorship of the proletariat is a government run by the workers for the workers. Like, that's what it is. It's the elimination of class distinctions, the elimination of owners, of an ownership class at all, and the erection of a governmental system or a societal system that is run by the workers for the workers. And that the workers are the only class, that there is only the proletariat. Like, are you going to have people who are going to be more responsible for the enaction of state function? Yeah. Like, but they have to respond to you, or else you get rid of them. Right? And how do you get rid of them? By voting. Like, you saw this in the Soviet Union. You see this in China. Like, you see this in Vietnam. Like, you see this in Cuba. Right? Like, the state apparatus is actually responsive to the needs of the people, which is why they're always so popular. And which is why they're so resilient. Right? Like, think about Cuba. Like, why has Cuba not collapsed from an internal revolution? Because people are fairly happy with the way things are going. Like, do they wish it was better? Do they wish that they had more access to global markets? Sure. Absolutely. But, like, they're literally off the coast of Florida. And, like, they haven't collapsed. There hasn't been, like, an internal coup, right? Because the government is responsive to the needs of the people, because the government is run by the people for the people. For real. For real. So what stops you from moving to China? I mean, lots of reasons. I mean, I have family here, first of all. That's a big one. Home bias, I suppose. I do have friends in China. What else stops me from moving to China? I mean, money. Money's a big one. Like, it's not free to move. What else? Yeah, I don't really know anybody there. That's a big one. I don't speak the language, so there's like that barrier is certainly there. And this is my home. Like, this is my home. I live here. And I want to see my people do well. And I think that we can learn from other nations, right? Like, what I do here is not exclusively self-interested. And in many ways, I think that what I do here is not even for people who are currently alive. Like, I think we should be operating thinking about people who are not yet born, who are not yet here. Like, we could make this place super nice. Like, we can make this place super nice. We've got everything. We've got everything to do it. There's nothing stopping us from making this place super awesome, right? It's just us. That's the big holdup. It's just us at this point. And like, I would really love, like, I would love to live in a society that turned the corner, you know, that actually started to go like, hey, yeah, we could make this place really nice. We could make some really cool decisions and start doing some really cool shit. And it would be really cool to live in a society that was actually like building stuff and changing itself and creating a place that was actually not better for us necessarily, but better for the next generation. Like, that would be cool. That would be really, really cool. And I don't think I'm ready to abandon that idea yet. And like, abandon it for what? So that I personally will have a more comfortable life? I don't know. I don't really care about that, honestly. I don't really, that's not what motivates me. I'm not motivated by the idea that my life is going to be more comfortable. I'm motivated more by pushing this society forward so that the people who are not yet here will have an even better time. Like, that's really what motivates me. Like, I think about like the energy that my grandparents had when they go off and fight in wars, right? Like, they didn't go off and fight in those wars because they were fighting for a better future for themselves. Many of them knew they were going to die. They were doing it with the idea that they were going to go fight and die and sacrifice to create a better life for people who weren't even here yet. And like, you start touching into like deep like religious shit with that kind of thinking, that we are more than our just individual selves, and we are more than our nation. We are a people. We are humanity. And why would I abandon my people and my nation and my home in its darkest period and in its darkest moment when it needs us the most? No, I won't do it. No. We need people on the left. We need people like me. This society needs people like me, even if they start to kill us. This society needs people like me, demanding that we do better, expecting that we do better. Because we can and we should. And not even for us, but for the people who are not even here. So that when they are here, they have just a nicer go of it. And the place is just a bit nicer. That would be nice. That would be nice. Don't mistake the freedom to work for a capitalist as a freedom for you. There is censorship with communism, though. No. So okay. Like, the censorship issue is an interesting one because oftentimes we here in the West don't accept the reality of the propaganda system that we have, right? That, like, we have just come to accept that there are liars and frauds in our society. Guys like Tucker Carlson, for example, right? Sean Hannity, right? Who have literally argued in court that they have the right to lie to people. And it's only become very recently that we've come to care at all about propaganda from other nations, right? It's only very recently, especially Chinese propaganda, because we're actually threatened by the Chinese. But, like, for the most part, like, we don't really care. Like, we don't care if, like, the Chinese are going to try to get propaganda and whatever. USA, we're the greatest, right? So it's easy to pretend as though you have, like, a free, open society when you are the fucking top dog and you're not scared of anybody, right? It's a different story when you are deeply concerned that you are going to be invaded, right? Like, the Americans have said outright that they have plans to blow up China, right? Like, this is a real document. Like, this is a document that came out in 2016 from the Rand Corporation, which is the Pentagon. War with China, Thinking Through the Unthinkable. They literally state their intention to destroy 30% of Chinese trade in the South China Sea. Like, they're funding the building of nuclear submarines in the South China Sea. Like, yeah, I'm not also going to let those guys spread propaganda into my society. And you can call that censorship if you like. Right? You can call that censorship if you like, but I just call that good fucking sense. And I simply don't buy into this idea that there is this, like, if you disagree with the state, then you're, like, the very fact that Harvard went in and China permitted it to poll its own people, and that there were dissenting opinions within the poll, right? And, like, you can see it in Chinese news. Go watch Chinese news, right? Events will occur, and there will be dissenting opinions, and people will have different things to say about it, right? Just like here. But what they're not going to let happen, and I think it's reasonable, they're not going to let American propaganda come in and try to tear and balkanize the country, right? Like, the censorship that we seem to think exists in communist countries, like, as if, like, it's 1984, like George Orwell shit, right? Like, it just doesn't exist. Like, it just doesn't exist. Do they have the same kind of, like, manufacturing consent systems, like Noam Chomsky's manufacturing consent? Yeah, sure. They're people, they're humans, but it's not more, right? It's not more than what we do, you know? Like, they're not special in this regard. And a lot of how we think about censorship and communist societies is based on fictions that we write, right? Like Jordan Peterson was walking around for a long time being like, you got to read the Gulag Archipelago. The Gulag Archipelago, that's a scary book about the Soviet Union. The Gulag Archipelago is a fiction book, like, written by a fucking Westerner. Like, like, we write fictions about these places, and then the fictions become reality. Like Animal Farm or 1984, and we're just like, That's how it definitely is. Yeah, it's definitely not a fiction novel written by a fucking Brit. Like, and we have a difficult time distinguishing between those fictions that we have written about communism and communism itself. And how you break that down? Just like watch their news. Right? Their news is not much different than ours. Like, really. Like, yes, it's state run. Like, yes, they have like a state line that they want to maintain, certainly. But like, if you walk around in China and you say like, I don't know if I agree with this decision that the Chinese government is doing, they're not gonna like come and round you up. Like that's just like cartoon villain shit. It just doesn't happen that way. You can't sustain a complex society that way. You just can't. Like you're asking for revolution. Like you're asking for people to organize and fight back against you if you start doing that. And so they don't, because why would they? Like, oh, they don't like that. Well, maybe we should actually think about that. Right? And there's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of interest. Like, here's a real, you want to get into like an interesting one that is like a controversial sort of a thing. So recently, I forget what the crime was, but a group of people were found guilty for a crime, right? And the punishment was public shaming. That they were forced to wear outfits, like humiliating outfits, and they were paraded around town while the people of the town shamed them, like openly. And this created a controversy throughout China, right? Because the practice had been banned in China in 2010, so not that recently, so not that long ago, I should say, so fairly recently. And yet this town did it anyway. And so it created a bit of a controversy. And there were people from all sides of it. There were people who were saying this is an outdated practice. We should no longer do it. And then there are other people who are like, well, what's the alternative to this? Right? Jail? Like, is that better? Right? And it's sparked an interesting and robust conversation throughout China. And it's especially interesting from the Western perspective because it's something we don't do at all. Like, at all. It's completely foreign to us. We just don't do it. Like, you got to go back to, like, times like the Salem witch trials and that shit. Like, the Scarlet Letter. Like Victorian times to find that kind of shit. Like, we just don't do it anymore. And, but the fact is that they're, like, they didn't hide that it happened. Right? They don't pretend like it didn't. And they're having an interesting internal conversation about it. Is this something we should allow? Is this something right? Like, what do we think? And so the censorship issue, like, do communist societies have a degree of censorship? Sure, just like we do. On that same kind of level, just like we do, right? But is it worse? Probably not. Like, and it's probably well overblown. There is a real concern with centralized power in communism. It does have to be worked out so people don't go headfirst into another bad system. I mean, usually what happens, Jared, is that the system just becomes corrupted and then just gets bought out by Western forces. Like, that's what happened to the Soviet Union, right? Like, the decline and collapse of the Soviet Union was because neoliberal capitalism corrupted it from the inside. You're making that up. That's like saying if you criticize Democrats, then you're defending Republicans. You sound like you're defending capitalism. Play nice in the chat, guys. The Soviet 1936 Constitution, there were many rights protected that capitalist countries still don't have today, like right to health care, right to employment, right to rest and leisure in old age. Mocked, always bringing the facts, man. That's why I love you in here, bud. You're always keeping the conversation honest and bringing out the facts. I love it. The Soviet system was the greatest experiment in democracy in history. I mean, any time we strike out and try some democracy, there's always some, like, democracies are fragile, historically very fragile, and it, like, maintaining democracy, like, and you're seeing that in the United States right now, like the January 6th insurrection or coup attempt or whatever you want to call it, right? The January, like, that really does show you, like, yeah, like, the only reason why they weren't able to get in there and take the whole thing over is because there wasn't enough of them. That's it. Like, that's it. Like, democracies are fragile. They are fragile and they are weak. Inherently. You need to upkeep them. You need they operate through belief. They really do. And that's what's so concerning about the American system right now, is because people are losing faith in it, right? So it's becoming easier to convince people, well, why don't we just get rid of it? It's not doing anything for us. Who cares? Like, my issue is how any one person can determine the value of life. I mean, one person could never do that, though. Like, it's always, for me, I think it's not about forcing them, and help me out here, it's about forcing doctors to abort. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean by that, Kate. Like, if a doctor doesn't want to do it, should they be forced to do it? Like, should it be something that, like, and I don't think so. Like, I don't think that's necessary. Like, I don't think you have to force a doctor to do an abortion if he doesn't want to, right? Like, that to me is now you're talking about, like, the right of the doctor and what the doctor feels like he wants to do, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think you need to go down that road and legislate that you must, doctor man, perform abortions if you don't want to, but the doctor shouldn't stand in the way, right? Like, that's the Hippocratic Oath, right? First, do no harm, and so standing in the way can do harm. Right? How can any one person determine the value of life? Well, that's why it ultimately comes down to the woman, right? Like, that, it's her body, her choice. It really is that. And, like, and it doesn't need to go any farther than that. Abortion, hashtag pro-choice. I'm totally understanding in between. I just wonder where anyone draws that line. Like, 5 months. I think a mom can kill her son at any time. 98-year-old woman shoots her 60-year-old son, just, and everybody goes, what? And she's just like, I brought him in, I take him out. For sure, so many doctors are disagreeing with each other. Well, because they're like, it's like arguing how many angels stand on the head of a pin, right? Like, there's no, like, when is the moment where it is a life? Like, when is the moment when it is, like, its own, like, thing, right? And, like, everyone is always going to disagree with that all the time. No one is ever going, it's never going to happen. Like, straight up, it is never going to happen that everybody comes together and says, this is the moment. Like, there are many issues in our society that have a lot of wiggle room, right? Where there's, like, a general sort of thing. Like, think about something like age of consent. Age of consent is very much like this. Like, when is it? When can a person give their consent? Like, when can a person give consent? Right? There's a lot of wiggle. There's a lot of wiggle. And some societies say pretty young, and some societies are like, no. And there's credible evidence showing that it should be later. Right? Like, Oh, hey, the brain isn't actually fully formed until like your mid-20s even, so maybe it should be later, right? Like, so what's important, I think, is, and I think this way about most things. Who is the person who is actually most invested in the conversation? It's the woman that's going to give birth. So I think her opinion probably matters more than anybody else's. And she should probably have the right to decide what happens. Right? And like, and again, like, if people care so much, then we should make the place nicer. How is being paid by the government, nationalized News Corp, is speech suppression? Are nurses now suppressed? Guess in Ontario? I don't know if I understand, Barnabas. Sorry, bud. Because doctors are petty bourgeoisie. Yeah. Bodily autonomy has no lines. We have a right to make medical decisions. No, most of the time it isn't health concern, which is okay. But 95% is out of inconvenience. But I mean, like, hold on. Inconvenience. Like, I feel like that's a pretty big downplay. Like, a baby is like a responsibility and is a serious responsibility. And if you are not in a position where you are capable of raising that child, right? Like, are you doing them a favor by bringing them up into this place? Like, are you really doing them a favor? And again, like the baby's not going to notice. Like, really. Like, you want to get down to some nuts and bolts about it? Like, you want to get, like, right down to it? The baby's not going to notice. Straight up. Like, it has no experience. It has no nothing. There's nothing there. Right? It has no experiences. It has no memory of any of it. It doesn't have any kind of thing, right? But we're supposed to treat it like it's like a fucking angel or something. Like, it isn't. It's just not. And if it is, well, then it's not going to mind. Right? Like, what's the worst case scenario for this for this little critter, for this, like, angel creature? That it's come from the ephemeral nothingness and then immediately goes back. And, like, looks around. It's like, well, we'll have it. All right. And then moves on. Right? Like, there's no pain. There's no, like, it's not a form of torture. Like, there's no nothing. Like, it doesn't even have experiences. Like, and is, like, so is it about, like, the potential? Is that what it is? Like, I'm actually at a bit of a loss what it is we're actually supposed to be fighting for. But you're asking the doctor to operate on you. Well, and there are doctors who are completely on board with this. Like, there's a great case going on in Texas right now where they passed legislation making abortion illegal, and a doctor did an abortion so that they could take it to the Supreme Court, right? And he's risking everything. It's a huge risk that he's done, right? Because it could go south on him. It could blow up on him, right? And if I don't know, if a doctor doesn't want to do it, like, it's you can't make people do things they don't want to do, right? Like, if a doctor doesn't want to cut off somebody's limb, like, I support abortion rights, but I will stand with anyone against imperialism, capitalism, and war. Yeah. No, like, not in cases of danger to the mother, but isn't it a big deal? That corner is still in the room. January 6th was a mostly peaceful protest, except for, the beating up of that cop and getting into the White House, all the footage. This statement here, Kate, I know where you're coming from. I do know where you're coming from. Like, I think it's the most likely if somebody told me that it's like it got out of hand, like it just became a thing that like things took over and it like just got out of hand, yeah, I believe that. But there is a lot of credible evidence coming out that shows premeditation. So, do I believe that every person went there with the intention of kicking in and invading the place and all that kind of stuff? No. Do I believe that like lots of people were swept up in it and that as it started to happen, people were just like, yeah, we're doing it, and like the mob mentality took over? Yeah, I definitely believe that. Do I also believe that there were people who intended to do that and planned to do that? Yes, I definitely think so. So I do think it's both. Like, it is one of these rare and beautiful times where it is both. Like, there are people who got caught up in it, for sure, and there are people who just, like, definitely wanted to do that. Oh, Amanda, I don't mind. Honestly, it's and Amanda, goddammit, it's my birthday. It's my fucking birthday. And I actually like these questions. I don't really talk about abortion or anything like that, so what the hell? Let's go. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. And honestly, you know what I like about you, Kate, and what I like about this is that it's just questions. That's what I like. It's the people who come in and they think they've got their shit and they make like declarative statements and accusatory shit that I'm just like, I'm over it. Like, I'm not interested. But if you're going to come in here and ask questions, no, that's nice. There's something nice about that, isn't there? I don't know. And besides, I don't really have much else to talk about, honestly. Today was going to be a very memey day. It's not much like in terms of news. Like, Trudeau's new national security advisor is hawkish on China. We know. Like, you know what I mean? How capitalism made the pandemic worse every step of the way. Like, we know. This is actually an interesting one from the Financial Post. Conservative choices failed Ontarians. Right? The fact that it's coming out of the... and that's CUPE Ontario. Oh, I love this one, actually. Yeah. With the Ford Conservatives refusing to listen to experts, driving into yet another avoidable lockdown, the Canadian Union of Public Employees, Ontario, has renewed its call for measures to keep Ontarians safe and supported. Right? This feels like the plot of the movie Don't Look Up. Where the political leaders ignore experts, warning of the massive meteor headed directly for Earth, only admit at the last moment that a tsunami is coming and that we must brace for impact. That's Fred Hahn, president of CUPE Ontario. It's time to finally listen to the experts, like the scientists, workers, unions, and community organizations, and avert this crisis once and for all. What I tell you, right? What I tell you, you got the president of CUPE quoting this movie, Don't Look Up. Like, if I was Leonardo DiCaprio and that whole crew, like Meryl Streep, all those people, this alone would be complete, like, it would be like worth it. I'd be like, amazing. We've got people using this as like a foundation to launch from, right? So I just wanted to point that out. It's why they got to go after the arts, right? Don't Look Up is going to be an extremely influential film. You've got union leaders, you've got major players using it as a common narrative, right? Yeah, there's no homelessness in Cuba. Absolutely grinning. Capitalist death cult is a brain virus, which is ultimately nihilist, as its OCD, like rituals, fail to bring real progress. New scapegoats and rituals are always required. Absolutely, bud. Absolutely. Well, and it co-ops too, right? It infects and co-ops, and it's infected and co-opted the iconography of Christianity for sure, right? And really heightened the most nihilistic aspects of Christianity, which are definitely there, right? Like, all of the Christian music is about how things will be better when we're dead. Like, we're going to go meet Jesus after we're dead. Don't worry about making this place any better. Things will be better when you're dead. Like, you don't get much more nihilistic than that. In Indonesia, there were mass killings. In Angola, there was a civil war. In Cuba, there was the Bay of Pigs invasion. Same case in Iraq, Russia, Nicaragua, China, Chile. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Amanda wants me to just talk to you. Amanda, are you feeling a little jealous? Is that what's happening here? You feeling a little jealous? You want me to talk to you. That's what's going on. You see that I'm talking to Kate and I'm not talking to you. I'm just fucking around, Amanda. I'm just fucking around. The authoritarianness and censorship of communism is not a natural development, but an unnatural development caused by capitalism constantly intervening whenever it is attempted. Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. Oh, yeah. Everyone must worship the idol of a mythical normal. Yeah, the good old days never existed, yeah. America's already annexed Canada using money. Well, and culture as well. Like, something like Friends, for example, even. Like, you think about Friends, right? Like, Friends was a huge deal here in Canada. And it's, like, completely American. Like, we were literally watching, like, 6 white Americans in New York. And being like, wow, their American life in New York is so good. Communism is a condition of post-scarcity and hyperproductivity. That's how it could be stateless. Yeah, the statelessness of that's always been like the central struggle of these communist experiments, is that getting to the point where the state itself withers away. That's always the language that's used, right? It withers away. Well, how do you bridge that gap? How do you actually get to that point where the state, in fact, does wither away? And how do you prevent the arising of small petty fiefdoms? That's always been my concern with this idea of the state disappearing or the state not being part of the conversation. Is like, well, how do you prevent like petty little fiefdoms from coming up? How do you keep unity? How do you keep things federated without some kind of apparatus that's specifically there to try to make that happen, to ameliorate problems and to redistribute resources as required? Like, it always does seem to me like there's got to be some kind of meta structure, right? And I don't know, I'm not yet convinced even. Like, even when guys like Lenin talk about it and like Trotsky and Stalin, like, those guys get talking about how like we could go towards a stateless society. I'm just kind of like, I don't know, can we? Like, is that real? Like, is that possible? And what would that look like even? Because it just seems to me like there always needs to be some kind of overriding apparatus where power groups or like the people themselves can come together and actually talk with one another, right? So I don't really have answers on that on that line, right? Because that's the big thing that I think capitalists misunderstand about communist societies, is that they are transitioning, that there's a constant move forward, and that it's all very experimental, and it's all very like when the Soviet Union was the first country to seriously move forward on Marxian principles. Like, if you ask me, it's a miracle it did as well as it did, right? Like, it should have problems, like any kind of new thing will, right? And Kate, I appreciate that you're here. I want you to know that. I do. And I know you're asking questions because you're hungry. You're asking questions because you're hungry. You're curious and you want to know more. It's just, you guys are chit chattering away. I love it. So I don't mind. I don't mind, honestly. If communists could have a country without any censorship, they would. But until the U.S. and its allies stop bombing, invading, sanctioning, and embargoing them, it's just not realistic. Yeah. But if you say AOC is disappointing on Twitter, you may get a visit from the Capitol, please. You could be here for any reason, so you ask if we see any fake edited American filming. Yeah. Capitalists need to create the myth of social Darwinism to justify eternal conflict in the meritocracy, of the death cult. Well, and the meritocracy narrative, it's the carrot, right? It's this idea that you just need to work harder and refine it and you'll become better at it, right? And that there's always another level, right? Like that's like very Scientology, right? Like that's very like cult, is that there's always another level to ascend to. And you just need to invest more into the system, the cult, in order to attain the next level, right? And the whole meritocracy narrative is completely built in, like it's completely what it's about. That there's always just another level of ascension. And the way to ascend is to commit more to the cult and to sell yourself more and to do more. Since capitalism is based on escapism, is capitalism based on escapism? Is it based on escapism? That's worth investigating, actually. Because, like, escapism itself, I don't think there's anything wrong with escapism. But capitalism is definitely, like, not rooted in reality. Like, really, it isn't. Like, the adherents of capitalism, when they talk about capitalism, they sound delusional. Like, they can't discuss it seriously. And you can see that really, really clearly with the National Post's recent Capitalist Manifesto, right? The Capitalist. Like, this whole thing, like, all of this stuff, right? All of this stuff. Well, this is a new one. I didn't even see this one. But all of the ones that I've read, they are not engaging with what capitalism actually is. They're erecting like mythical, non-existent narratives, and they refuse to engage in the conversation honestly. And in that way, it is like a form of escapism. They've got to like build these kind of fake, ridiculous nonsense sort of narratives. It creates narcissism. Certainly it creates narcissism. Like, it rewards narcissism, right? It rewards, because everyone comes to believe that they are where they are in the society because they're the best, right? That's the whole meritocracy narrative, right? You are where you are not because of luck or happenstance of your birth or any of that, or because of the help that you received from the people around you. You are where you are because you worked hard and you're the best. So, of course it breeds narcissism, right? The people who are going to do the best in that system will be narcissists. And pure selfishness, yeah. Well, and the selfishness argument as well, because, like, we have people walking around saying the word freedom when what they mean is selfishness, right? I think very much about the people who refuse to put the mask on, right? That, it's my freedom. It's like, okay, but if you don't care about another person's freedom and you only care about your own freedom, then that's not really freedom, right? You don't really care about freedom. You care about yourself. So you're selfish, right? And the distinction between what is selfish and what is free, right? Someone's freedom and someone's selfishness, right? Seems very, like, fine. But it does seem that, like, the idea of thinking about someone else seems to have been distilled from our society in many ways. In a circular logic of authoritarian psychopathy. I do love this statement, though, I gotta tell you, Gunk. Since capitalism is based on escapism, it creates narcissism, and with that, pure selfishness in a circular logic of authoritarian psychopathy, thus making people miserable and want to escape. Yeah. No, there definitely is that element of like, people want escapism. Escapism is a huge part of our society for sure. Who is Seth Rich? Yeah, Ayn Rand died on welfare, exactly. You guys are lively today. This is a lively chat. Oh, yeah, we're getting into it. I'm going to zip by some of this stuff. Try to get into the more recent stuff. How long are you guys talking to one another? Brilliant. I think the majority dislike and division is based on misunderstanding, false assumptions from the extremes. Yeah, there's a bit of that happening for sure. Stateless society is post-scarcity. No need to coordinate or discuss things. I don't need to negotiate my breathing because air is free. What if food, clothing, education, healthcare, shelter, and every human need was as plentiful as air? Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like, no, you're right about that. Like, you don't need to, like, if all of it was just freely available and just everybody was happy with how it was interacting, like, you don't need some kind of prevailing larger organization or body. How does anyone here feel about gun rights? You're asking all the classic shit, Kate, right? Anything but class. Anything but class, right? The populace should be armed. Simple as that. The populace should be armed. As long as the people can always have the power, can anyone help me understand how we don't lose rights through communism? I mean, but if the people have the power, like that is essentially like, we don't have power right now, right? The capitalist class is the one that decides what happens, what gets built, what gets done. And we all just do it, right? Because we have to. We have to sell ourselves to them while they decide what gets done. Yeah, Marxists should be in favor of arming the proletariat, and we should therefore oppose gun control by the capitalist state. Yeah. Escapism to where? You know what? This is a really... Okay. Neil Gaiman. Escapism. Can I find this? I hope I can. I'm just going to quickly... No, this isn't the one. Oh, this is the edited one. Okay. This will be just as good. Will it? Ah, well. Let me see if I can find there's... Neil Gaiman had a brilliant thing where he said about... Yeah, here you go. If you were trapped in an impossible situation, in an unpleasant place, with people who meant you ill, and someone offered you a temporary escape, why wouldn't you take it? And escapist fiction is just that. Fiction that opens a door, shows the sunlight outside, gives you a place to go where you are in control, are with people you want to be with. And more importantly, during your escape, books can also give you knowledge about the world and your predicament, give you weapons, give you armor, real things you can take back into your prison, skills and knowledge and tools you can use to escape for real. And it's not in this, but he said a brilliant thing, and this line completely changed my view of escapism and literature, is the only people who don't want others to escape are jailers. And that really hit me. Like, that really, really hit me. Socialist countries like Cuba, China, the Soviet Union, North Korea have elections. A vanguard party represents people. In the USSR, you could hire and fire your manager, unlike capitalist nations. How can we overthrow the violent, oppressive state without arming the masses? Huh? Well, and certainly you don't want to get overwhelmed by the state, for sure. Patty Burton Garcia. What a great name, dude. That's what, like, Patty Burton Garcia. I hope that's your actual name. You know what? Actually, no. I hope that's not your actual name, because then that means that you made that up. And that's even better. I would only feel I need to own a gun because this society can be pretty crazy. There is that too. Apparently the people liked that system because in a referendum held right before the dissolution of the USSR, the vast majority of the people wanted socialism to stay. Yeah. Well, and it's not like the fall of the Soviet Union happened quietly. It's not like the people... Oh, hi, Patty. Good to see you. It's not like the Soviet Union fell quietly. It's not like the people of Russia just shrugged and were like, okay, right? Like, they fought. They fought. They had to be quelled, right? Like, there are videos of tanks opening fire on government buildings and shit like that, right? Like, there was throughout the 90s. There was like there was social upheaval over it. Like, people fought, and they were quelled. I think it's so interesting that my perception of communism is your sane definition of capitalism. I wish. It's just, you know, Kate, it's the struggle is what matters. You're getting into an interesting thing, and what I really value, and I know there are people who kind of want me to move on from you and all that. I understand, but like, what I really value about what you're doing and what is obvious what you're doing, is that you're struggling, and I know that you're struggling honestly. And the struggle is what matters. Really, it is. It's not about trying to find a landing point and to reach a conclusion, right? That kind of thinking is what breeds fundamentalism. It's the desire to struggle, and it's the desire to question, and the desire to question yourself that matters the most. I get access to super chat stuff with 1,000 subscribers, and it is gonna get there, guys. Like, it is gonna get there. Like the chat is already starting to get a bit unwieldy with only 20 people. I'm starting to get like 20 concurrent viewers pretty regularly now, which is a huge success for this channel, by the way. So let's just pause for a minute and just be like, yeah, it's picking up. It's happening, guys. It's happening. But it definitely is getting to the point where, like, super chat stuff's going to have to start to come in and have to start doing all this kind of stuff. And Kate, I am going to challenge you on one thing. In my understanding, fascism is more closely related to communism. Fascism is on the opposite side of the political spectrum to communism. They are diametrically opposed to one another. And that's true philosophically, politically, and historically. That the fascists and the communists have always fought against one another. That when the Soviets were fighting against the Nazis, that was fascism versus communism. And the communists won, by the way. And fascism is actually more closely related to capitalism. Fascism arises out of capitalist systems. And in many ways, fascism is just like the billy club of capital. I mean, fascism arises out of capitalist systems when the capitalist systems feel threatened. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Eziel. That's really straightforward, actually. Fascism equals wanting to double down on colonial legacy, right? communism equals dismantling colonial legacy. Yeah, that's a way of looking at it. That fascism is a form of protecting capital, protecting the means of production owned by a small group of people, protecting that. I'm thinking fascism like too much government power. I think you need to just keep figuring out and keep learning about what fascism is. I think that's probably more straightforward, because fascism is when capitalism feels threatened, when capital is worried that it's going to lose when the owners of the means of production feel as though they will lose the means of production, they will turn to fascism. And communism is the attempt to remove the means of production away from the ownership class. Capitalist corporations like Ford, AEG, Krupp, GM, Hugo Boss are notorious for funding the Nazis, and the Nazis privatized state-owned businesses. Absolutely. Yeah, privatization was really huge in Nazi Germany first. Like, they really did a big privatization movement in Germany. Oh yeah, Kate, you seem great, honestly. I don't mind the questions. I don't mind all that. I could use And guys, let's get to 1,000 subscribers, because then I get access to like the super chats and all that kind of crazy stuff. Things go nuts. Have a good one, Kate. Fascism is Bonapartism, revanchelism, where capitalists seize the levers of power and suppress working people for the sake of preserving the present system or regaining power. Oh, yeah. It's been a fun one, guys. This has been a fun one. Like, yeah. I don't know. I was happy to answer all those questions today, because honestly, like, I was just going to be like, here's another article where they're saying they're going to do a 1% tax on houses. And it's like, oh, a 1% tax on houses, that'll stop them from buying them. Yeah, for sure. Or like, Trudeau says Canadians are angry and frustrated with the unvaccinated. Yep. Like, this is the scapegoating of the unvaccinated, is what it is. It's instead of saying like, hey, have you noticed how we completely fucked this whole thing up? How we botched everything, and this whole situation exists because capital refused to respond rationally to a rising pandemic. Like, you notice that? Oh no, don't notice that. It's the unvaccinated. They're the problem. You Barnabas. I'm too defensive for writing most. You're just expecting the CIA to show up at any moment, dude. I know you. You're just like, are you CIA? Yeah. I can't get how this pandemic wouldn't make someone anti-capitalist. It's abundantly clear they would sacrifice you without hesitation in service to capital. Like, you know when Comrade Fozzie Bear is saying it. Wow! Waka waka! Right? You know. Yeah, it's the feds. It's the feds. Yeah, Patrick Watson nails this. Dear CEOs, you can't both A, brag to shareholders about record profits, and then B, tell workers you can't afford better wages and working conditions. Maybe that worked once. It doesn't anymore. Yeah, like, has anybody else noticed? Like, these guys are making money hand over fist while simultaneously pretending like they aren't. Like, it's very fucking weird. It's very fucking weird. Oh, yeah, this fucking article. I gotta read this article to you guys. Let's all barf about this article. I'm willing to stay on for a little bit longer than 9 to read this just junky trash. Just, like, makes me so fucking angry. Like, so, I'm just like, oh, okay. Okay. Gen Z has arrived at the office. and it's freaking everyone out. The good news is that Zoomers aren't nearly as entitled on the job as millennials. The bad news? They could really use a hug. There is this really stark change between millennials and Gen Z on a huge list of things. Narcissism is down. Thinking of yourself as above average is down. Life satisfaction is down. Happiness is down, she explained. They're sad, and they doubt themselves. Depression has doubled among teens. The change between these two generations, she went on, happened quickly and before the pandemic. I think it's the phone, she said, repeating her theory from her book about the pressures of social media and a lack of face-to-face communication. I don't know how much you follow Facebook's internal documents, but mic drop. This is a generation that has sex later, drinks later, drives later. In 1991, 53% of high schoolers had gotten laid. In 2017, only 39% had. I'd go with this as the reason they're depressed, but I'll trust twenge on the phone theory. But they're not a pain in the ass at work. Managers say that while Gen Zers are new on the workforce and have spent half that time working from home, they already understand office hierarchy. Sometimes it just doesn't seem like that to older people because office communication has changed, by which I mean Slack. I'm going to be here for 2 years and then start my own company. Gen Zers see the power that comes from sitting in a boardroom. As obsessed as Gen Z is about titles, they view the rest of their identity more fluidly. It's the post-race, post-gender, post-sexuality generation. Grayson was consulting for a sex toy company and observed that one item was listed on the site as being for someone either born with a vulva or made one. When she got home, she reported this to her daughter, who goes to UCLA. She and her friends were out by the pool, and I said, "Look at this dope shit I heard," and they were so offended. Why would you have to put a label on anything? Why can't you put it on a website and let everyone figure it out on their own? They fundamentally believe we're all just spectrumized and we'll figure it out on our own. Between this story and the one in the New York Times, it seems that a huge portion of Gen Zers work for sex toy companies. Like, it's gonna, like, what's this place gonna be like when the boomers are gone, do you think? Like, let's get weird, let's get existential, right? Like, do you think they're gonna keep publishing these kinds of articles where they insult us so openly and readily? Do you think they're gonna, like, outright be like, yeah, these narcissistic losers, like when we are the ones, like when we're the ones who are 60? Like, it's gonna, like, it's coming, right? It's coming. It's gonna happen. And like nobody talks about, like, the silent generation anymore. Like, the people who fought World War II, like, those people are gone. Right? Like, sure, you could find, like, one person who probably fought. No, I think actually I remember seeing an article where, like, the last person who was in America who fought in World War II died. And they actually, like, made, like, a whole thing. Like, what the fuck is going to happen? Just watch, man. Just watch Gen X have their moment, right? Like, Gen X always complains that everybody forgets about them and that they don't exist. But, like, I feel it. I feel like Gen X is going to have, like, this interesting moment where they're really going to be able to, like, stake their claim on something. Like, right as they're about to head out the door, they're going to have, like, a seminal statement. And it's going to be I bet it's going to be snarky as shit. I bet it's just going to be the most snarky, accurate shit of life. That we're all going to like look at the Gen Xers as they go out the door and we're going to be like, well, yeah, but you don't need to say it that way. And like, I'm actually more or less sympathetic to the boomers. Like, I actually am. Like, I don't really buy into this idea that there's like the boomers are the problem, and like if only the millennials had more power and all this. Like, I think like when the millennials come in and when the millennials take power, you're gonna find pretty quickly that we are gonna have our shitheads too. Like, we're gonna have like that a core group of like rich asshole shitheads. Like, it's definitely going to happen. Like, that's for sure coming. It's going to be more obvious though, because like all of the millennials that have wealth they're going to be hereditary wealth holders, right? This whole narrative that like, I worked hard and I went into the mailroom and I went across the street, shook his hand, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's bullshit, and we all know it. Like, all of the rich millennials will be people who got money from their parents. Like, all of them. And no exception. It isn't going to be like, I was hired as a part-time employee at Starbucks, and now I'm the CEO. Like, none of that. None of that. Yeah, boomers were raised as fascists. Operation Paperclip. Well, and I say it over and over on this channel, right? Like, the boomers ate television propaganda. They were the big, like, television propaganda, movie propaganda, right? Stuff like Reefer Madness. Like, it never ceases to fascinate me. I'm always consistently fascinated how a people banned a plant while smoking a different plant. Like, I will always be amazed by this. How a people could actually go, this is of the devil. This plant that comes out of the ground naturally, that you can find literally anywhere. And all you have to do is pick a bud and smoke it and get high from it, is of the devil and evil, and creates a reefer madness that will drive you insane. This plant is perfectly fine. It gives you cancer and you'll die sooner from it. But it gives you a nice little buzz that'll get you through the day. And they give you breaks to go and smoke it whenever you'd like. Devil weed! Completely normal plant. It will never cease to amaze me how this happened. Like, and it completely came about because of film and television propaganda. Like, if anybody at any moment had have paused and been like, but they're both plants. Like, they're both plants. It would be like banning banning rosemary. Just like literally putting a ban on rosemary and being like, you can't cook with rosemary anymore. All of the other spices are completely fine. Normal, total spice, but rosemary is the devil's spice. Right? Oh yeah, you're completely right, Seraphim. They've completely admitted this. Like, the Nixon, aides from the Nixon administration have outright said that this is the case. Like, I think my favorite quote from the article I read was, did we know that we were lying? Of course we did. Like, yeah. But for the people themselves, for the populace itself, to go along with it, like, it's so dumb. Like, it's so dumb. Like, we're not going to let you cook with rosemary anymore. That's the devil's spice. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, nicotine's a nice little head rush, though. Still not worth it, yeah. I genuinely see no difference between liberals and conservatives, other than conservatives are open fascists and liberals are social fascists who want various degrees of welfare programs. I mean, it's the identity politics That's really what it is. Like when you can't have a meaningful class discussion, you have large scale discussions about identity issues. And that's really where the differences lie between the conservatives and the liberals. And so it really does come down like conservatives are opposed to like gay marriage and gay rights and you know the normalization of things like trans people, all this kind of stuff. And liberals are okay with that as long as you go to work on time. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like a liberal can fly a little pride flag and be like, "Hey, make sure you show up to work on time." Like that's it. And as long as you're fine with that, as long as you vote along those lines, they're completely disincentivized to bring class politics into it whatsoever, right? Because they are ostensibly allies. Like the liberals and conservatives work together. Yeah, isn't it wild how they trusted it for so long? And now mainstream media is the devil. But now they believe everything on the internet instead. Well, I think the boomers also were at a bit of a disadvantage because their parents were put into a war effort and also experienced the upswing of new government programs. So there was a kind of prevailing trust and a prevailing deference to governmental and structural systems, right? That the great irony of the modern age is that a lot of these guys are individualists and talk about individualism while being like the primary beneficiaries of new social systems, right? And so there isn't, they didn't, I don't think they distinguished too hard on between like I think there was a lot of fluidity in like war propaganda, right? Let's go overseas. We'll get that Hitler. Yeah, let's fight against the Jap, right? Like that the transition from war propaganda into other forms of propaganda was fairly seamless, I suspect, right? And it's like, well, my parents went and fought in a war, right? They all organized themselves and put faith and trust in their government and USA freedom, you know, eagles, jets, like all of this shit, right? Like the flying flag, you know, America, America, like all that shit, right? And then the kind of seamless transition from that into other forms of propaganda. And how I think that's where that trust kind of came from, where they deferred to it because it was so overwhelming and like omnipresent in so many ways. And yeah, and now mainstream media is the devil. Well, not for a lot of them. Like Fox News is still like right at the top, right? But now they believe everything on the internet instead. That's the greatest, though. You're right about that. Like, now they believe everything on the internet instead. Well, and what happens, especially, I think, for boomer types, but for everybody, I think, I don't think this is unique to the boomers, is, like, you tend to believe what you see on, like, Facebook, for example, right? Because it's news that's being given to you by your own family, right? And your own friends, people that you have chosen to follow. And so I think people defer to it and tend to trust what they see because they're being presented to it by a friend. So it's like a word of mouth sort of thing. And people don't realize or recognize or even understand that a lot of these social media systems exist are manipulative. Like the algorithms are manipulative. The most explicit one I've ever seen is Facebook, where an angry face emoji is 5 times more powerful than any other emoji. So if you hit a heart, it's worth 1 point. But if you hit that angry face, it's worth 5. Which means on Facebook, hatred is 5 times more powerful than love. So it distorts people's perceptions of what is actually happening in the world. Because anger news and anger events spread 5 times faster than love and peace and hey, here's something that made me feel good, or even thumbs up, or hey, smiley face, right? Which is why you got to get off Facebook. Like, you got to get off Facebook. Like, it would be one thing if the algorithm treated these things equally, right? Like, there's like the angry face and there's this heart and all this, and like, so, oh, this is getting a lot of hearts or a lot of angry faces, right? And so we can send them around like that kind of stuff. But they're purposefully weighting it. Like, they're purposefully doing it. So, yeah, the Facebook algorithm has been shown to show people hate-filled content more frequently than not. Yeah, it's designed to do that. It's designed for that, right? You don't see many feel-good stories anymore. Well, and a lot of the feel-good stories are like, this child with only one leg had to sells lemonade to get the wheelchair that he wants. What an entrepreneur. And like, that's not a feel-good story. It's presented to me like it's supposed to be a feel-good story, but I look at it and I'm like, that's scary and sad. Like, this kid should just have a wheelchair. Like, he should just have that. Like, we're the richest society in maybe the history of the entire, like, world. Like, kids should have wheelchairs. Like, we should literally give wheelchairs to people just because they asked for them. That if somebody was like, hey, can I have a wheelchair? We should be like, sure, bro, here. We shouldn't even be like, do you need a wheelchair? Like, we straight up should just be like, oh yeah, okay. There you go. Have a wheelchair. Right? Just a bunch of teenagers like racing down the streets in wheelchairs. Fuck it. Let's go. Everybody should just have a wheelchair. You should have like a refrigerator, right? Like a sink, a toilet, and a wheelchair. You should just, I just think that makes sense, right? Because a wheelchair is the kind of thing where you don't need it until you need it. And when you need it, boy, do you need it. So everybody should just have it. You should just have a wheelchair in your space somewhere. Should just be around. You know? Yeah, of course you agree, Major. Do you have a cool wheelchair, dude? Do you have like an automated thing? Like, is it one of these things where you get to like hit like a button and it actually like can you like do cool things? Can you do tricks on your wheelchair? I would try. I would. I would always be trying to like pop wheelies and shit. Although maybe I would feel differently if I actually like relied on it. You know, if it was like an important thing and I was like, I don't want to break this. Maybe I'd think a bit differently about that. Mesothelioma. What the fuck is that word, bro? Mesothelioma. Mesothelioma ads are the next big thing. No, I'm not moving on from that word. What the fuck is this, dude? How dare you? How dare you put this word in my chat? Is a type of cancer that occurs in the thin layer of tissue that covers the majority of your internal organs. Ugh, I knew it was going to be something like that. I knew that the word that came after your was going to make me go like, yeah. Do you prefer having a manual chair? Or do you wish you had an automated chair? I hope you don't mind me asking, Major. Like, if that makes you uncomfortable, please tell me to fuck off. But like, I'm always curious. Because, like, I think that I would want a manual chair just because I think it would be better for me as a person, you know? Like, I think it would be a better thing to have. But definitely there's a person inside of me that's just like, nah, bro. Nah, bro. Just like, oh, you've got both. Oh, yeah, okay. And so, do you some days decide to go the one route or the other? Okay, hold on. So this weird, it's this cancer in the thin layer of your internal organs are the next big thing. I'm in my 30s, so somehow Facebook is convinced you have chronic lung condition. It's probably because you started talking about it and, like, Alexa heard you or something, right? Oh, by the way, Alexa, turn off the lights. Fuck Alexa. A mind-controlled chair. Bro, that would be cool. That would be super cool. A mind-controlled chair. They're kind of getting there, eh? The technology is getting there. Where, like, they've got, like, a thing that they can put on people's heads. And you can, like, actually use your mind to, like, move stuff on a screen or any of that kind of stuff. The dab. Yeah, with robot arms, dude. Let's go. Let's go, man. Like full scale mech suits and shit. Let's go. Like I'm down for that. That's what I want robotics to be doing. You know, this whole thing where we're like, let's make a robot dog, or let's make like a robot, like an independent robot thing. I'm like, fuck all of that. Fuck all of that. Like, robotics. We should be, like, I should be able to get a hold of like a big fucking robot arm. And it's just, I can like lift like 1,000 pounds. You know? Like, that's cool. That's some like cool badass shit. Right? And then at least I understand that, like, okay, people are like, well, isn't that kind of scary? You're giving that to a person? It's like, yeah, but it's still like a person, right? Like, you can still kind of like, if they do something fucked up with it, you can still, like, assign blame. You can still be like, yeah, it's this fucking idiot that did this fucking dumb shit, right? And, like, maybe we have licensing or something like this. And, like, fucking people should be able to have like attached like and leg stuff and be able to be let's go. Like, that's cool. That's where robotics should be going, right? China can build it. Let's go. But like, fuck these robots. Like, I don't want to fucking like. I just cannot imagine. Is this the moment? Is this where I like really reveal that I'm going to be old? Is like, are we going to live in a society and there's going to be all these robots around and like autonomous robots moving around everywhere, and all the kids are just like, oh yeah, it's just another robot, whatever, right? And I'm just like, fucking robots, and they're all going to be like, oh, old man John, right? I remember when there were no robots on the streets. Mm-hmm. Yes. There was a time when you could walk down the street and not see a robot. Mm-hmm. Yes. We actually banned robots on the streets here in Toronto for a little while. You banned robots? What are you, barbarians? No, it was quite nice, in fact. I wish we would ban more things. I wish we would ban cars. Not necessarily cars, but definitely trucks. Like the big fucking dumbass stupid trucks that are so dumb. Just fucking dumb. Yeah, I think you're on to me, Seraphim. I think that's right. What's that picture? What is that picture, Seraphim? Is that a picture of a seraphim? Yes, I remember when phones had actual dials. Mm-hmm. Yes, I recall having a television. You had to get out of your chair, change the station, and there were only 3 of them. And then the kids will be like, "What's a television?" And you'll be like, "No." It was hard back in my day, but did we complain? No! Of course we couldn't complain even if we wanted to, because we didn't have mouths, much less the central nervous system. Yes, I remember when I was a floating amoeba, just amorphously floating in the nothing mass. That was really living. It's the cover of a Tool album. Yeah, it definitely has that look about it. All right. All right, guys. I'm well over time. And I can feel the tiredness seeping into my bones. What a lovely chat this was. You guys always make this really, really a real treat. A real treat. And maybe the pandemic will end soon. Huh? Maybe something nice will happen. Yeah, maybe something nice will happen. Anyway, always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to make sure that you don't realize it. Because if you do, you might understand that you're just as valid as they are. Oh, Amanda, that's don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. I understand. To all of you, rebel, revolt, repent. Good luck. We're gonna need it.